Good afternoon, everyone. The board is just finishing up their housing board meeting, so they should be with us in about 10 minutes.
Okay, does it look like we have all the commissioners?
I believe so.
Okay.
Except for, excuse me, sorry, Commissioner Hamilton has not joined us yet.
Okay.
Everybody's muted.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call our regular BCC meeting. Today is August 25th, 2020. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and for time for the record is 2:15. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Chair, Madam Salazar is having some issues with her mic. IT was headed that way to help her fix them.
Okay, so we'll wait for just a moment then.
Ball,
Yes.
I'm gonna go via Estrella Martinez's mic.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So, Chair Roy Ball,
I'm here.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Here.
Commissioner Moreno,
Here.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Hanson.
Present.
You're all here in attendance. Thank you. How come I still
Okay.
can't hear you, Chair Roy Ball?
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm going to go to item number 1C, which is the Pledge of the Allegiance, and item number 1D, which is the State Pledge. And after that, we'll do item number E, which is the moment of reflection. So for the Pledge of Allegiance and the State Pledge, I'll go ahead and lead those. Then we'll go to the moment of reflection afterwards. So if we can all rise and please join me with for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would appreciate that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Working? What happened?
Okay, so next we're going to go on to our moment of reflection. And we have Sonora Rodriguez. Sonora, are you ready?
Yes. Let us take a moment to focus on the work ahead of us today, being ever mindful of our decisions and in the best interest of our community. We take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonora. Sonora's with the Growth Management Department. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna move on to item number F, and this is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any requests from commissioners or changes to this agenda? If there isn't, then I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Manager Miller?
I just want to go over the items that were added to the agenda or the amendments from our original posting. We posted the original agenda 1 week ago, but the amended agenda was posted on 8/21 at 4:52 p.m. The items that were added to the agenda at that time is item 4A, which is an amendment to a contract that we have with Pictometry. Also, item 4B, which is a approval of an amendment to a site lease agreement that we have. Also, item 9A, executive session matters from the county attorney. We added items 9A, 1, 2, and 3 for discussion in executive session. And those are the only amendments that I have to the agenda at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Manager Miller. Any other, go ahead, Commissioner Hansen.
I would like to move to approve the agenda with amended changes.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hansen and a second from Commissioner Moreno. Through a roll call vote, Commissioner Hamilton? Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
Commissioner Hansen?
Yes.
And a yes from Commissioner Roybal, so our agenda is approved. Thank you. We're going to go on to item number 1G, and this is the approval of the July 28th, 2020 regular Board of County Commissioners meeting minutes. If we've had a chance to review these minutes, and I know that Commissioner Hansen, you typically will have some corrections, so I'll go to Commissioner Hansen.
Yes, I have some corrections and I will present them to the stenographer. So I would like to move to approve with changes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Hansen with changes
Second.
for approval and a second from Commissioner Hamilton. I'm going to go to a roll call vote once again. Or is there anything else under discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Hansen.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno. And a yes from Commissioner Roybal. Okay, so we've approved our meeting minutes from our July 28th meeting. We're going to go on to our next agenda item, and that's 1H, and this is the recognition of new hires in July 2020. And I'm going to go to our county manager, Catherine Miller.
Mr. Chair, we'd like to take the opportunity at the end of the month to recognize those employees that we hired in the previous month and welcome them to the county. As you know, we've been in a hiring freeze situation except for those mission critical positions, and hence you can see in July we only hired 2 new employees in the sheriff's office, and those employees are Jacqueline Alitia Jaquez, I probably butchered that, so sorry, and Jose Rivera Suarez. And they are both sheriff deputy cadets with our sheriff's department. So just like to welcome Jacqueline and Jose to Santa Fe County.
Thank you, Manager Miller. And I also want to welcome Mr. Suarez and also Ms. Hawkins to our sheriff's department. Any other comments from the board? Thank you very much and welcome. We hope that you have a long career with Santa Fe County. Next, we're going to go on to item number 1I, and this is a recognition of years of service for Santa Fe County employees for August 2020. And once again, we have our county manager, Ms. Catherine Miller.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we also like to recognize those employees that have stayed with Santa Fe County, and we recognize them by in 5-year increments of their years of service. So when they hit a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year milestone of consistent employment with Santa Fe County, they are recognized and receive a service pen and a thank you note for staying with the county. And those individuals that in the month of August who hit one of those 5-year milestones are Nancy Smith with our senior services, Vanessa Ulibarri with the RECC administration, Jonathan Malone in the animal control of our sheriff's office, along with Christopher Trujillo in animal control, and Ivan Berry in the county assessor's office. They all hit their 5-year milestone this month. And then in the sheriff's department, Richard Hildebrand will hit his 10-year anniversary on August 30th in animal control with the sheriff's office. So just want to recognize them and thank them for their continued service to Santa Fe County.
Thank you, Manager Miller, and I just want to thank them as well for their service and their commitment to Santa Fe County. For 5 and 10 years now, so thank you all, and we look forward to continue to working together with you. Any other comments from board members? I don't see any hands. I'm looking for hands. No? Okay, thank you, Manager Miller. Next, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. And on our consent agenda, we have one item, and this is the request of approval of county health care assistance claims in the amount of $3,420. Are there any commissioners that have additional questions or will need this pulled from the consent agenda, or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. Move for approval.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Garcia, and I believe the second came from Commissioner Hamilton. So I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
And a yes from Commissioner Roybal, so this item passes unanimously. Next, we'll go on to item number 3, and this is our appointments and reappointments. This is an action item, and there's one item, it's 3A, and this is a request reappointment of Chris Heyer as a primary representative and Alex Fitzgerald as his alternate representative to the Regional Economic Development Initiative Network, ReadyNet. Are there any questions or comments from the board? But we also have Mr. Chris Heyer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
I want to thank Chris Heyer for his service to ReadyNet and for also serving as the secretary on the board of ReadyNet. I appreciate his service and the time that it takes, and I would like to move to approve the reappointment of Chris Heyer as a primary representative and Alex Fitzgerald as the alternate representative to the ReadyNet board.
Okay, so we do have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Hamilton. Mr. Heyer, did you have anything that you would like to say to the board?
Mr. Chair, no, I find it an honor to serve for Santa Fe County on ReadyNet. I think ReadyNet is moving in a very positive direction. I think we're going to see a lot of positive things happening this year. We have a new chairman, and that chairman is helping us find a new path. And we're also overcoming some of the bad times we had with the previous fiscal agent. And so everything is positive, and we're working very hard to try to make sure that we have some Wi-Fi hotspots out in the county, and very proud of that. So
Thank you, Mr. Heyer.
For your confidence in me.
Yes, sir. We want to thank you because you've done an outstanding job, and we're glad to hear that we're headed in that direction with ReadyNet. And I also saw Commissioner Moreno had his hand up, so I want to go to Commissioner Moreno.
You're on mute. Commissioner Moreno, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. I've known excuse me, Chris. Chris has been in my life for a long time now. When we were back in the old days with Pal in the land office, and I'm happy you're happy in Santa Fe. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
it.
you, Commissioner Moreno. Appreciate your comments, sir. Commissioner Garcia, did you have anything? Commissioner Hamilton?
No, thank you. And thank you for your service.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we do have a motion and a second. So I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
I vote yes, but I have a question, Mr. Chair, if I may ask.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Garcia.
Just really quick, Chris, can you actually check with the schools? I know we're having some challenges in regards to hotspots, especially in the Los Angeles area. And I know we have some challenges also in the Madrid Rios area, as into service providers in that area. So if you and I can get together, we can get together with Ambra so we can talk about it and see what we need to do or how we can work together with the schools and whoever else we need to work with. But thank you. But yeah, I vote yes.
Commissioner Garcia, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and I believe I also had asked about looking at hotspots for the community centers and for the fire stations in my district, and I believe we're working on that. So,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
thank you so much, sir. So I went to, we did already have a vote from Commissioner Hamilton and Garcia. Commissioner Hanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
And a yes from Commissioner Roy Ball, so this item passes unanimously. Congratulations, Chris, and keep up the good work, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item, and this is item number 4. And these are action items. We have 4A and 4B. So 4A is request approval of amendment number 4 to agreement number 2017-0074-AO/BT between Santa Fe County and Pictometry International Corporation in the amount of $1,539,360 exclusive of the New Mexico GRT over the 6 years remaining contract term to provide geo-referenced aerial imagery for property valuations. And second, to authorize the county manager to sign all purchase orders. From the county assessor's office, we have Mr. Gus Martinez, our county assessor. Assessor Martinez. Assessor Martinez, you might be on mute, sir. Tessa, do you know if we have Assessor Martinez on the line?
I don't believe so. There's 3 call-in users and I've unmuted all of them. So I don't believe he is.
Mr. Chair, I believe Bill Taylor is available to present this item.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, would you like to present this item, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, commissioners and county manager. We are before the board today to ask approval for amendment number 4 to the GSA schedule agreement. We entered into this agreement with Pictometry back in 2016 to do 3 projects or 3 flight areas over a 6-year period. before the third project or flight, it's been requested and made available by Pictometry and requested by the county assessor that they wanted to upgrade the resolution to that photography imagery from 3-inch resolution to 2-inch and from 9-inch resolution to 6-inch, depending on the area. The larger area, 1,130 square miles, would go from a 9-inch resolution to 6-inch. This capability is a modification to the agreement. There isn't a significant cost savings if we do this directly with this contract with Pictometry. The third project flight for the GSA schedule to provide that imagery would be at about $655,000, over $655,000 over 2 years. With this patent services from Pictometry Eagle View, the cost would be $513,000 at that refined resolution. With that, Mr. Chair, again, this is amendment number 4 for 6-year term for projects 3, 4, and 5 for aerial imagery photography. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And I know that this Pictometry has been very vital to the assessor's office over since they implemented it. So I think it's a great feature for them. It's something that's really necessary. So I'm going to go to questions from commissioners. Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Bill. Thank you. Nice to see you. I have a question. Do they fly over the entire county every other year? And since I'm not really an expert in this, is this LINAR a process? I was asked that at a meeting the other day. And so I was just wondering if these flyovers will be the entire county, or is it divided into sections and repeated on a schedule?
Mr. Taylor, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Hanson, it does fly over the entire county. There are sections that are divided up in the county. There is the 817 square miles of area that's going to be at the 2-inch resolution, and over 1,100 square miles for the 6-inch. There is a diagram in the proposal of the areas that will be covered from Pictometry. So to answer your question, it does cover the entire county. It is an ortho obliques where they can get all angles. They compare 2 years ago, the imagery from 2 years ago, side by side with this new imagery that will be actually occur in January of 2021, so that they can compare any differences for valuation purposes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Hamilton?
I don't know if somebody else from assessors is around. Commissioner Hanson had a question with regard to LiDAR, and I suspect this is orthoimagery. It's actually giving high resolution photographs, whereas LiDAR is doing very high resolution topography, elevation estimates. So I don't believe this is LiDAR, but that's just general. That's my presumption.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. I think maybe from the fact that they can look at it from many different angles, they may be able to get the same kind of information that they're looking for. I just have constituents who want to compare areas of topography. It's a little difficult to see on the map when things are being flown over. So I appreciate you explaining that. Because
And I might be wrong because I know, I think the county, actually, Manager Miller might know if we have purchase access to LiDAR data.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I don't know that you would call this LiDAR, but I do know that the assessor has coordinated with our GIS and Earl Wright on whether this information can be utilized by both departments in an equally beneficial way. It is a high resolution that's useful to GIS and provides information for mapping that developers need as well. I think LiDAR is technically a little different, but I would have to actually get Earl to explain the technical differences. But it's my understanding that both our GIS and the assessor's office can use imagery and to complete their missions.
Okay. Thank you, Manager Miller. And I know with LiDAR, it's basically it's like GPS almost with a laser that you can actually see the different elevations. So I think that a flyover data won't give us elevations. So. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Garcia, go ahead, sir.
Just really quick, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you know, when we started working in the assessor's office, 30 years ago, there was no aerial photography, and this stuff these days it's amazing. And just like to thank the assessor, obviously Manager Miller and her team, because this actually helps out the assessor as well as land use department as well as GIS to actually look at what's been on the property in the last 2-3 years, what's been improved with the building permit without actually having to go do a site visit. So this is getting the county in a whole different direction area. And I went to a meeting with the county assessor, and this stuff is actually really sophisticated, where you can actually look at if there was ever hail damage on the roof. They can zero in on that roof and see how many hail damages there are. They can almost count every single divot in that roof. And so this is actually something great for Santa Fe County. And like I said, Santa Fe County, we're doing great, thanks to the entire team, policymakers as well. And I think this is a great thing. And with that, I'd like to make a motion for approval. Mr. Chair.
And I'll second. And I have one more question.
Okay, so we have
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hansen. So we do have a motion from Commissioner Garcia and a second from Commissioner Hansen. I'm going to go to questions. Commissioner Hansen, you have another comment you mentioned?
Yeah, so I'm wondering if anyone can answer the question, will we be able to look at drainage issues from this pictometry?
I'll answer it. Yes. Speaking with the assessor a while back, yes, I feel drainage, so on and so forth. It won't calculate what the actual. It'll calculate the terrain, the height, and so on. The calculations, as Commissioner Hamilton will know that. But yes, you can look at management and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Hansen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
And a yes from Commissioner Roybal. So this item passes unanimously. Thank you, commissioners. And I think it's a vital piece of equipment for our county assessors, and it sounds like GIS will be able to use it as well. So I think it's going to be a great, a great tool that we'll continue using, I'll say. Okay, so we're going to go on to item number 4B, and this is the request approval of Amendment Number 2 to Electric Site Lease Agreement Number 2016-0091-FD between Santa Fe County and the LAC Minerals USA LLC for the lease of real property located at 582 County Road 55, Cerrillos, New Mexico, for electronic transmission equipment. From the Public Works Department, we have Mr. Scott Caseman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Real Property and Fire Department is bringing this amendment number 2 before you for approval today. This is for a small 40-foot by 40-foot piece of property that we lease from LAC Minerals for a radio transmitting station. There's a tower, a communications building, and 3 repeaters on the property. This amendment will extend the term for 5 years to August 31st of 2025. It also adds a generator, fuel, and battery backup to the equipment list, and it modifies the notice addresses for both the lessor and the lessee for the property. And that's pretty much everything that the amendment does. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, great, Mr. Caseman. Do we have any questions for the board? Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Hanson, did you have any questions?
Yes. So it says on the lease the leasee is Stan Holden, Fire Chief, Santa Fe County Fire Department. So that's who's holding the lease?
Chair or Commissioner Hanson, that is being modified. That was the original contact person for the county in 2010.
Yeah, okay. That's what I wondered. Okay, thank you.
Right, the amendment will change that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioner Hanson?
Thank you. I move to approve.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Hamilton. Under discussion, are there any other questions? Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, really quick. Thank you, Scott. We definitely need to change that. Chief Holden, excellent fire chief. And God bless him. He might have some challenges in his stuff that's happening with him personally in his life, but God bless him. And so just really quick, what about the generator? How come there was never a generator there before? And also, is this generator going to be shielded? And is it a diesel generator? Is it going to go on every single day? Is it going to go on once a week? How is the generator going to work? And how will the adjoining property owners notified about this?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia is chief on the meeting. That is information that I don't have. This was negotiated and the fire department is handling those types of details. So I'm not privy to that information. Is the chief on?
Chief Litzenberg, are you on, sir?
Yeah, Chair, Commissioners. So it is my understanding the generator has actually always been at that site. It just wasn't referenced in the existing contract. Our concern was if either the equipment did damage to the site or the site did damage to the equipment, it wouldn't be appropriately listed within the lease. So we took this chance to appropriately list all the equipment that was on site. I don't know anything about the generator itself, Commissioner, so I can't answer if it is shielded or not, but it is existing equipment.
Okay, thank you, Chief Litzenberg. Commissioner Garcia, did you have any follow-up questions?
So just really quick, Chief, thank you for that. If you can just give Amber and myself and CC myself as to do the type of generator, because, you know, as sorry, we have a nice jet flying over the property here. But if you can actually just let me know what kind of generators, because we have one at our projects department, and that thing goes on like, I think it goes on once a week by itself. We have the fuel and everything else is getting moved through the generator, and it's actually computer operated. But I just don't want to get calls from individuals saying that this thing's on all night long, so on and so forth, which I understand it probably will not be, but just during when the power's down. But if you can just send that to myself and Amber, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Okay, so you heard that request, right, Chief Litzenberg?
Chair, Commissioner, I heard the request and I will get him the information requested.
Okay, perfect. And I guess this is a backup, like Commissioner Garcia had indicated. I wonder if we could look at a solar backup in the future. Might be a little bit so we don't have to maintenance a generator. There's less maintenance. So, thank you, Chief Litzenberg. So we do have a motion and a second, and we've already gotten Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Garcia, and Commissioner Hansen. That was under discussion. So I'm going to go. Do you have any questions under discussion, Commissioner Moreno? No? Okay, so I'm going to go to the roll call vote. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hansen?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
And a yes from Commissioner Roybal. So this item passes unanimously as well. Thank you very much, Commissioners. I'm going to go on to our next item, which is 5 matters of public concern. And I may call once again, since we are very early, it's only 2:50, and I may ask once again later on in the meeting if there's anybody from the public that would like to address the commission. So is there anybody from the public that would like to address the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Mascareñas?
Mr. Daniel Wegand signed up to speak.
Okay. So go ahead, Mr. Danny Wagon.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Shane Wiegand. I live out here in Edgewood. I've been working with Commissioner Garcia on opening the Edgewood Arena. We met with him over Memorial Weekend. About 60 members of the community met with him. And we were looking to get an update on when that arena will open. Currently in Bernalillo County, there's 3 equine facilities, which are just outdoor recreation areas that are open. And I know that you all appointed a caretaker trustee last week, and I appreciate that. But a lot of us here in the northern part of the county are wondering what's taking so long, what's going on. It's been 90 days since we met with Commissioner Garcia. That's it.
So, Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. I don't know, on the school board, I don't know if you want dialogue whenever we get individuals from the general public, but I have been talking with Shane. He calls me every other day, and I appreciate the calls. And being from the southern part of the county, it's just something that I don't know, Mr. Chair, can I talk, or you don't want me to have dialogue? It's up to you.
Typically we don't, but I think that if it's something, as long as we're not as long as if we want to engage staff, typically we do not have dialogue back and forth over these issues, but you can give direction for a meeting or information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just really quick, just like once again, Shane, like when we talked about the last meeting, where there's like 60 individuals that went to talk to myself, and PJ was out there in regards to. I guess it's just I understand. Being on the school board, I understand as into whether we're going to do virtual learning online and how that works. And I know it's under the call of the governor, and those are just things that we're all having this new life, right? This new thing here that we wear every day. And as into how it works, what's going to happen. And, I certainly understand, as Shane knows this, as people walking up and down the trails all day long. And so I know Manager Miller's working with staff, Anna. I see her on the line there, as into, can we have 5 people there, 7 people there, depending on the size of the arena? And it just takes a little while for us to get it done, and how we can do it, as long as we're actually under the whatever the governor's recommending, whatever the governor says. So that's kind of where we are, Shane. And I really appreciate you coming online and giving us your voice of concern. But it just takes a little while. I see Anna there, and so that's where we're at. But I appreciate you talking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is the manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Manager Miller?
I might be able to add some insight for Shane. So this facility, when we built it and opened it, it was under the understanding that it would be operated and maintained by the town of Edgewood. And over the course and some changes in the town of Edgewood with their staff, they brought forward that we didn't have an existing maintenance agreement with them. There was an agreement from 2009 that had to do with the development of it and maintenance of it that went to 2012. I don't know why. I wish I could explain why on both sides, town of Edgewood as well as Santa Fe County, why it was never brought forward that there wasn't a long-going agreement for the maintenance and operation of the facility, but there wasn't. I was under the impression when I got to the county that there was, and that Edgewood had agreed to, that if we built it, they would operate and maintain it. In the turnover at the town of Edgewood, they got a new parks person who brought it forward that they had no agreement with Santa Fe County to maintain it. In addition, COVID-19 happened, and there also appeared to have been some discussions with staff, but nothing that was brought to the manager's level or to the commission level about leasing the entire facility to the town of Edgewood. I have since had conversations with Edgewood to get an understanding of what, from their perspective, actually happened and why they didn't want to continue to operate it. And let's just say in general, they felt they had no agreement to operate it. We closed it due to COVID. We closed the entire facility, including it's 30 acres. We closed the trail as well as the arena. And in looking at reopening it, a couple of issues have come forward. One, as Commissioner Garcia mentioned, what is an appropriate way to use a facility, a recreational facility, under the purview of the governor's health orders of not having more than 5 people gather, et cetera. 2, we didn't have anybody to operate it. We don't have staff in the area. And 3, the town of Edgewood didn't feel they should be operating it without, I think, leasing or owning it. They didn't feel it was appropriate, and rightfully so, to be potentially incurring expenses as well as liability to maintain and operate it without an agreement. So all of this kind of bubbled up with the town of Edgewood as well as our own staff not being able to find any operating agreement. So we had to rethink how we would open it if we opened it. We did feel that opening the main gate that leads to the open space and the trail was appropriate. It is similar to our other trails, no issue. The arena itself is considered a county facility, and certain liabilities arise in that. And I know that Shane has said, oh, hey, it's always been free before, et cetera, et cetera. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Wiegand, there has been no operating agreement or no rules for operating the arena. And maybe that sounds great, but then again, if we have a trustee or staff that's going to operate it, they need to know what those rules are and how to operate it. And that's what we're developing. So we did get a volunteer as a trustee. We want to operate it similar to the way that we do our community centers, which is we have trustees. They are the ones who get paperwork from people who want to utilize those facilities. We have a fee schedule for utilizing the facility. And that's what staff is in the process of making sure they get developed and bring it to the Board of County Commissioners so that we can appropriately give guidance to the trustee on how to do that. And when insurance is needed, when it isn't needed, when waivers are needed, when they're not needed. And we're trying to make it as simple as possible. I completely understand that in the past, it's just been there for anybody to use, but it probably means there was some liability that neither Edgewood nor Santa Fe County was aware that they were not protecting themselves from. So I know that staff has been working on it. It is one of their fast track items, and I anticipate we would be bringing those guidelines to the board next month.
Thank you for the additional information, Manager Miller. I know that Ms. Bransford's here as well, and I don't know if she has any additional information or if that pretty much covered everything.
Hello, Commissioner. I do believe that covers everything. We are working with our legal department on the policies and everything else. And I believe we'll be taking it to the board next month, as Manager Miller mentioned.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you also, Mr. Wiegand, for being here today, or Wiegand, right? Shane Wiegand. So we appreciate that. And I hope that we provided information that's useful for you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Manager. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Anybody from the public that would like to address the commission? Tessa, can you unmute just for a minute and see if there's anybody that responds? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close item number 6. This is matters from the county manager. So we have our county manager, Ms. Catherine Miller. Are you going to have just the revenue update, and we'll hear that from Ms. Rowe? Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I'd actually like to go to the fire chief first for an update on the fires and some notification that we think that we should also institute the burn ban policy. So I wanted to just have Chief Litzenberg give a little update of what's going on. I know that it's directly impacting many county residents, the fires in the area, concern about air quality, concern about resources to fight those fires, as well as the potential for additional fire risks. So I'd like to have Chief Litzenberg first brief you on that, and then we'll go to the revenue update.
Great. Chair, Manager, Commissioners, thanks for allowing me a few minutes to do this briefing. I'll start by talking about the two fires that are around our community, and then I will move into the fire marshal's recommendation, as County Manager just suggested. So first is the Medio fire, which started on August 17th. The cause is still unknown, and as we've all witnessed over the last week or 10 days, it's grown to over 2,700 acres. There are currently about 250 people assigned to it, and it's listed as 18% contained. Since the beginning of this fire, we've been battling for resources with the entire nation. As you see on the news, the fire season elsewhere is in full swing. Ours was a little less predictable. For example, we did get 2 aircraft early in the fire to drop slurry, or the red firefighting retardant, and then they were gone after an afternoon. And then we did get some 2 days ago, but we have not been able to get them every day. The resources, the competition for these resources is heavy at this moment. The nation is in what's called preparedness level 5, which is the highest level for wildland fire. And it means that there's national engagement across the nation. Wildland fire is an issue. We do have good resources, and if you talk to the incident command team, they'll say that they're comfortable with what we do have. So while it is a competitive market, as it were, we're doing well with what we have. The strategy in these types of fires is to remove the fuel so that the fire has nowhere to go. And sometimes that means literally scraping a line of all brush and grass all the way down to the soil. And at other times, it means removing the trees and the brush, either mechanically or with fire. The intent is to create an unburnable line around the fire and then keep the fire intensity low as it approaches those outward boundaries of the fire. And that's the activity that you'll see. Yesterday, to that end, the crews continued to secure the operations along the eastern edge of the fire, which is where the fire is burning up to the Pacheco burn scar from a number of years ago. Along the northern edge in Nambe Creek, there's a bit of a challenge. There was some wind-driven activity there yesterday. That being said, the incident command feels that area is also well secured. Today and over the next few days, you should see a lot of operations along the southern border, which is now Forest Road 102. It's to protect the southern edge of the fire and the communities in Pacheco Canyon. And they've warned us that you might see some fire activity tonight along the western boundary with fire that they're intentionally putting onto the ground to remove those fuels. And when fire is in the evenings like that along those ridges, just be aware it really does appear much closer than it is. So we might get some calls and some alarm, but when you see it this evening, it's most likely the operations that are intentional. We do continue to work with the homeowners in the lower Pacheco Canyon and Rio and Medio to set up some residential sprinkler systems and to work with hose lays to mitigate the risk should the fire enter these communities. But there is no direct threat to any of these structures. These communities are currently well prepared and well protected. We have been going door to door in these communities to make sure they understand what's going on. And those are the communities of Rio and Medio, Chupavero, and Lower Pacheco. Our emergency management and wildland divisions have been very actively engaged since day one. They've been sitting on the ridge right above Rio and Medio, talking to homeowners, trying to make everybody understands what their role is and what our role is, trying to educate homeowners and visitors alike, and hand out our Ready, Set, Go materials to help homeowners have tools in their hands. We have had great success with this education, and I think that time has paid dividends to getting the communities prepared. Currently, Black Canyon Hand Crew is helping with the operations. There are some trails and road closures around the area just to keep people safe and to keep the responders safe from other traffic. And really, smoke will remain the most significant issue in this fire. For what it's worth, most of the smoke we've been experiencing over the last week is actually from the Colorado fires, not from our local fire, but the local fire is also producing smoke, so it's contributing. There is a briefing for the public, for anybody who's interested, every evening by the incident management team. It can be accessed by going to the Santa Fe National Forest Facebook page. It's 6 p.m. every evening. They hold it to 1 hour. They offer a Q&A portion, and these are really well done. So if anybody is interested in getting ongoing information, I suggest you tune in. The second fire that we've been dealing with is the Caja fire, and that started on August 23rd. Santa Fe County Fire Department crews were some of the very first on scene and did operations well into the night on the 23rd. The cause of that fire is presumed to be lightning, although I haven't heard if that's the final determination. Shockingly, it's grown to 600 estimated acres, and the containment is 0%. This fire is burning in Pinon Juniper on top of Colorado Peak, and it is a wind-driven fire. In other words, the winds are really moving this fire through the Pinon and Juniper. The kind of fuels that exist in the Caja del Rio would not be able to support a fire or a fire growing if it were not for the winds. The winds have helped push the fire to the north, and as I said, it's gotten to 600 acres. There are no immediate values at risk. There are some natural and cultural resources of concern and a power line in the proximity, but those are all the incident command team is very well aware of those and is doing what they can to protect them. It is being managed by the U.S. Forest Service, as is the Medio fire. The one at the Cajo fire is what's called the Type 3 Incident Management Team, which is for medium-sized incidents. They did get some help from the air tankers that were dispatched to the Medio fire, so we sort of got a twofer on that one. And while Santa Fe County was part of the initial attack, we're now just supporting and able to provide assistance if we are asked to do so. So with the update on those two fires, I will say these fires are indicative of some pretty uncharacteristic and severe fire conditions. In 25 years, I personally have not seen this kind of activity in late August. We do expect this kind of activity in May or in June, but not in August. I'll continue to blame this on the year 2020. While we are seeing a storm develop over the Medio fire, we're still predicting some dry times for weeks to come. So I ask everybody to stay alert and stay aware and stay in communications with each other. Due to these fire conditions, and more importantly, due to the smoke conditions all over the county, the fire marshal has recommended that we put back into place the open burn ban that we recently pulled back. Other jurisdictions around Santa Fe County have gone back into restrictions. For example, the National Forest just went back into stage 1. The fire marshal is going to put out Fire Marshal Order 825-2001, which says that on Friday, Santa Fe burn permits will be suspended until further order of the fire marshal. We'll stop issuing burn permits until, again, this ban is lifted. And what this will be is it'll say that open burning is prohibited in the unincorporated areas of Santa Fe County, again, until the fire marshal recommends that this be lifted. The fire marshal is online if needed for any questions. But with that, I'll end the update about the fire conditions and the order that the fire marshal will put into place effective on Friday.
Okay, thank you, Chief Litzenberg. I appreciate the update. I've been keeping pretty close track of these of the fire. One of the fires that's in my district, and I've been actually, besides listening to the 6 o'clock updates, I've been participating in meetings at 10 a.m. during the week as well, just to see what the plan of course of attack is, and kind of giving some feedback as well. So. But I do appreciate, I know that Manager Miller participated in a couple of those morning meetings, so I appreciate that. And, I appreciate, just letting the public be aware of, not only the fire dangers, but the smoke inhalation. I think there's been times where the smoke is really bad in some of the valleys. So, it's been something that people need to really keep in mind, because it could be detrimental to your health, especially people that have underlying issues like asthma or any of those other issues. So it's something that, we need to keep in mind for our children as well, because there's a lot of kids that do have those type of medical conditions. So once again, thank you, Chief Litzenberg. Are there any other questions from the board or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Chief Litzenberg. I am concerned about the the fire, and I'm wondering, do we hope to have containment, or do we have any more information than what you shared? Are the roads closed out there to that area? Just et cetera.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So, yeah, all of us hope that we'll have containment on this fire relatively quickly. As I stated, these are very uncharacteristic fire conditions. I very much did not, nor did anybody predict this fire to grow the way that it did. It was wind driven. Wind pushes fire through pinon and juniper. We have seen today that the winds are not kicking up the way they have over the last few days, which should allow the management team to get a much better hold. So yeah, I think we should see a relatively quick containment on that, and we should not expect it to grow significantly more than it has. As far as closures go, it is quite remote. It is not really necessary to do many closures of roads because it's not an easy area to get to. I've not specifically heard of what roads they are considering closing, but I'll certainly keep you all informed if I do.
Thank you very much, Chief Litzenberg.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Hamilton, did you have no additional questions?
No, but thank you for the update, Chief.
Yep. Commissioner Moreno, did you have any additional questions? I got you next, Commissioner Garcia. Yeah, you need to unmute, sir. Okay, Commissioner Garcia.
Chief, thank you for the update. Our first responders, thank you for all of the first responders and obviously your team, Chief. And I just wanted, what you answered, so it's really the federal government is controlling who and what and how it works and who's turning it off, as the Cerro Grande fire did as well. And once again, first responders, all you people, thank you for what you do, because as Commissioner Hamilton knows, it's out there. But thank you for that once again, Chief. And that's good to know that there's no structures in danger at this point. And I guess we'll just go. We need to see what happens. As you said, it's a nationwide thing that's happening. Look at Napa Valley. Oh God, unfortunately, it's really sad what's happening throughout the country. And but once again, first responders, thank you for what you do, Chief, your team, and sheriffs, everybody else that's out there. Appreciate that. I just want to. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you, because it's just something we can't control, and the federal government is controlling that. That's federal land, so we gotta go by their direction because it is their land. And so, but thank you guys once again, and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, and I just want to express that gratitude as well to all our first responders and also our hotshots that are out there. I know that they do an amazing job, and it's mind baffling how they cut those fire roads. So they do a great job. Okay. Well, thank you, Chief Litzenberg. So on our next item, we have 6A, and now we have Ms. Rowe who will give us an update for the revenue update.
Chair Roybal, Commissioners, Joey Rowe from the Finance Division Budget Office. I'm going to present a revenue update for you this afternoon. Just an update, regular budget business. The final budget was submitted to the state before the deadline on July 29th. And the final approval for that budget from the state should be received by the county no later than September 7th. And as was discussed during the board meeting and presentations, the non-mission critical approved fixed assets that were presented to you are being delayed until sufficient revenues can be verified. If there are some items on that fixed asset listing that were approved and they are being justified to the county manager and we can determine that that is a revenue source that can sustain that fixed asset, we are allowing those mission critical assets to go through that process at this time. So the revenue update for fiscal year 2020 at the end of the year, I've put a little chart in here for you. As you can see, the overall adjusted budget for fiscal year 2020 revenues was $141,886,410. And the actual revenues that we had received by the end of the fiscal year is $152,644,414. So that is 7.58% higher than what was budgeted. That equated to just over $10.7 million. And that is overall from fiscal year 19 actual revenues. It was a 3% increase from fiscal year 19 actual revenues to fiscal year 20. I just want to stay on this slide for just a moment. I'm sorry, Daniel, I paused too long for you. I just wanted to point out that in our fiscal year 2021 adopted budget, if you look at that second column from the right, the adjusted budget and the adopted budget, you can see where the GRTs specifically are a lot lower. That is we had decided at the time, these are all just recurring revenue sources. These are not our capital GRTs. This is just the recurring revenue for GRT. We decided to reduce that. It's actually reduced by 27.9% over the adjusted amount for 2020. And the amount that has come in to date, we have July and August revenues have been posted in the accounting system for the county. And those would be for, let's see, July and August would be May and June revenues. And that is $3.3 million has been received in GRTs. So we anticipated that we were going to have less than that 70 or 75% amount for the first few months. And because of the ongoing COVID-19 closures, we're still keeping a very, very close eye on the GRT revenues as they come in. The hold harmless GRTs were also budgeted lower. They were actually budgeted by 49.32%. And again, this is just in the recurring side for the revenues. And those are also coming in a little bit lower, but we expected that these first few months. Property tax is our other large revenue source, and you can see from the adjusted budget from fiscal year 2020 of $51.5 million, we reduced that down to $49 million, or just over $49 million, and that is a 4.54% reduction, just to be on the conservative side. With we aren't really sure as far as when people are paying in for their property tax into their escrow or outside of escrow, it's possible that with the economy and the situation that we're in now, we could be expecting to see a little bit lower. And again, because the property taxes haven't gone out yet, the bills haven't gone out yet, we don't see that what the impact of that might be yet. But again, that is another revenue source that we're keeping a very, very close eye on. So just wanted to let you see where we are in the first 6 weeks or so of the fiscal year. So that, I believe, Daniel, was it for that slide. Thank you. GRT, I gave you a little bit more information here on these. As you can see on that first line where it says collection month February, distribution month April, these were in last fiscal year, in fiscal year 2020. And we looked at where we were in 2019 for that month, as opposed to where we are now for 2020 in that month. And there really was no change. We were up by 0.46% in April. So we really weren't seeing any of the COVID impact, the economy changing during that month. And I wanted to put that one there kind of as a base so you could see when it started changing. So it looks like the collection month of March and the distribution month of May, so the county would have received this in May. You can see that it started going down just a little bit. So it was down by 3.79%. And then we really saw a big drop in our revenues that we received in June of 17.48%. July, they started picking back up a little bit. We were down by 13.23% over the previous year's 2019 revenues. And then in August, a lot better news there than they were in June and July's distributions. We were only down by 8.96%. And I say only, however, if you look at that bottom line here, the amount of change over the last 4 months, we've had a decrease just in the recurring GRT revenues of 10.75%, which equates to over $2.3 million. So this is, again, why we are really keeping a close eye on that particular revenue source. And then just to give you an update, I know this is a revenue update, but we thought that we would let you see at the end of fiscal year 2020 how we ended up the year in our expenditures by department. And we had an adjusted budget of $147,181,083. And we ended up spending at the end of the year $120,874,286. And I would like to point out that any of those budgeted expenditures that weren't spent in fiscal year 20, as you recall, we did use some of that had fallen to the bottom in cash balances to fund the fiscal year 21 adopted budget. And in our recurring budget for fiscal year 21, I just put the adopted budget here for that, for the recurring by department of $139,591,475. And we'll be briefing you throughout the year, especially this first part of the year, so that you can see how our revenues are coming in, as well as how we are spending in the recurring expenditures, to make sure that we are staying within our budgets. I believe that was all that I had for this presentation, and I will stand for any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Ms. Rowe, Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Hanson, are you might be on mute?
Thank you. I see that Commissioner Hamilton had their hand up.
No, it's fine.
I am wondering, we look at the reduction of gross receipts tax, and it looks like in June, it started, it was not as serious as it was in April and May, but the numbers have continued to go up of people who have received COVID. So that is also concerning because what it means is that more people are out, and we're facing this huge number in the 87507 district, and it's just concerning to me. And I'm grateful to all the work that we're doing in community service to get out information, but I see that as a correlation, so in some regard. But thank you. I really appreciate the update, and thank you, Joey, for everything that you do. And that's it for right at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hamilton?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for the analysis. It's kind of exactly what you'd expect, although, and really well done analysis. In a way, it didn't get it as acutely bad as we anticipated, right? And that's what you just showed here in this. I mean, nothing dropped in any one month by 25% or something along. On the other hand, I know you guys have been talking. I'm sure it's we've chatted about it before, this idea that Commissioner Hanson was just kind of alluding to, which is that this might go on longer than we might have thought when we first started the budget analysis 4 or 5 months ago. What kind of shape do you think we're in for that? Given that now that you've looked at these numbers and you have something a little more to go on?
Chair Roybal, Commissioner Hamilton, thank you for the question. Because it's such a fluid situation, and you're right, it is we didn't expect it to happen for this long, for the economy to continue in the state that it's in. So just to give you kind of a brief of how I prepared the GRTs, the first few months, I had estimated that we were going to receive less than 50% of this recurring GRT amount and also the recurring hold harmless amount. So, and then later on towards the middle of the year, I started climbing it back up to 80 and 90%, hoping that there would be, that this situation would start to go back to normal. And so because I anticipated us to have such a low revenue amount for these first few months, we actually are in line with where I thought we might be at this time. But because it's such a fluid situation, I don't know when those are going to start coming back up in the percentage amount so that we can reach that total amount that we have budgeted for the GRTs. So it's just something that we're watching very, very closely right now, and seeing what other counties around the state are doing and what they're looking at. So, and again, as you know, we continued with our fixed asset soft freeze, if you will. If it's not mission critical, if it's not specifically, there's a revenue source like a grant source or a special appropriation associated with that particular fixed asset, we are putting it through a rigorous process where it really has to be justified before it goes through and is purchased, because we just don't know, we might need those revenues. And then as well that the hard freeze for the hiring freeze is still on. And that too, even though we say we're going to release some of those positions within 2, 3, 6 months, those are also things that we will be looking at if we don't have the revenues to support opening back up those positions. We hope that we do. We hope that we have those revenues as anticipated, but we are continuing to hold those positions as well. And finance has been in contact with Sonia, the HR director, and I know that the HR director was going to reach out to the county manager and discuss when perhaps and what the process is of opening those back up when we do see those revenues coming back in.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rowe. I did see Commissioner Moreno with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joey, and maybe even the manager could answer a question. What keeps you up in the middle of the night?
Hey, that's a good question, Commissioner. I have the same problem too. I don't sleep at night, but so.
I will defer to Manager Miller on that question. I'm sleeping like a baby, Commissioner.
Oh, serious question.
Everything. No, I think, relative, Commissioner Moreno, to the economy, is this length of time that we're in this situation. So as you see, numbers continue to go up in Santa Fe County, which we did not experience early on. And there to be some indication, although I'm not sure anybody really knows what to attribute that to. I have concerns that that will leave the state and the governor in a position of feeling like she can't remove some of these restrictions on restaurants and the 14-day quarantine and things like that. And therefore, that extends the length of time these businesses are going to struggle. And if we don't get a significant amount of funding to really help those that are struggling to survive, and I constantly hear of ones that are just on the verge of closing. So the thing that really worries me for our economy isn't so much a short time of being closed. It's more the longer time of being closed that forces people out of business. And we rely so much on small local business in our economy. We also rely on tourism, and we need that tourism. And I think that the longer the COVID-19 goes on, for what I feel locally is an issue for us is that inability to really open up to tourists. And then just add the fires, like Chief Litzenberg said, just chalk it up to 2020, but add the fires on top of that. And what tourism we maybe could have had and safely could have had is limited that much more. And so from just a micro economy of Santa Fe and our budget, it really concerns me that those industries are really going to take a big hit. Our hospitality, tourism, restaurant industry, and that it may not recover, so that the way that Joey has kind of looked at things like, okay, we had thought by 2021, we'd be pretty close to back to normal. And it just does not look like that's going to be the case. And we may have several of our businesses that don't come back. So long term, that's what keeps me up at night, because our The way we did our budget for 2021 was we used some of our reserves that we've built up over time. We can't sustain that if the economy doesn't come back, if the local economy doesn't come back to a similar level as last year in relatively short order, say 18 months. That would mean we'd have to really look at, and we are doing business differently now. The sheriff's office, the corrections, RECC, fire department, all of our 24/7 services have scaled back to the level they believe that they can to save money, but not compromise safety and security and those services to the community. But it's a real balance. It's a real balance how to continue to provide services the way we know we need to and still save money while we're in a reduced revenue situation. So that's one thing related to the economy and the county that keeps me up at night. There's a lot of other things not related to that.
Thanks for the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Garcia, I know you chimed in shortly, but did you have anything else to share, sir?
Just Commissioner Hanson, give me Hanson, but just really quick. So you talked about $49 million that you're estimating for the budget, and I understand that how GRT works, and county's budget is based off of a property tax. Whether you're in a downtown hotel, we get that property tax. And so, Joe, if you can tell me, like, who is your team that actually estimates $49 million? And so what I also want to know is, okay, we have Los Solares. I go to Los Solares and they're selling homes like hotcakes over there, and they're building homes like hotcakes. So how does the GRT actually? We're not getting so much GRT in. I understand that, but we're getting property value in. So how does that work? Does it equal out or not? And so one of the things that I would also like to know is our county assessor, very important individual in our county, as into picking up valuation on so on and so forth. So how does the GRT go down? Because I have people, Madras, Cerrillos, Edgewood, that yes, they're not getting GRT, and we have tax and rev that is. Wait, that's a whole different story. And but how does the GRT tax work with property valuation? Because people are moving here to Santa Fe County. So if you can just let me know that. Yes.
Commissioner Garcia, maybe I could take a stab at, I think, what you're getting at. So our property tax, we estimated to be a little lower. So that's the 49 million versus our last year's budget of 51.5 million and actuals of 53.8 million. The reason we estimated property tax to be lower isn't because we believe that property values are going to drop, because they're not. Actual property values went up. And property tax lags in valuation. So the assessor did the valuation for calendar year or tax year 2019 is what he sends out April 1st, and then that's what we base our tax base on for sending property tax bills this year. And that'll go out in November to be collected in December and next May. That's actually, the value has gone up. In 2019, it went up. So the actual valuation is higher. You are correct. Real estate activity is still pretty good. But why we estimated that to be lower this year is that there may be people unable to pay. You don't lose your property right away by any means. And as a matter of fact, penalty interest on late payments of property tax is not that high, particularly for a resident. But there may be people just unable to pay right away because they don't have a job. So we estimated that we may not get as much money in property tax in December and next May as we normally do, not because the value isn't there. We might not see that for a year or two, if we see it at all, but just because people may not be able to pay. So it means we'll have delinquent payments for a couple of years. So that was one thing of why we estimated 49 million there, is just for the perspective of, yeah, we may have higher values, but we may have less people capable of paying come December. GRT, on the other hand, we estimated to be significantly lower this year. So from last year's adjusted budget of revenues of 44 million, then to actuals of 48, we dropped our estimate down to something more like 30 million. And that was based on what Joey said. You had no business activity in April and May. So we anticipated July and August distributions to be significantly lower. But then we had ourselves coming out of this and economic activity coming back much quicker than it's probably going to. So those are our two main revenue sources. Property tax and GRT are typically about the same amount for the county. And we're actually estimating property tax to be slightly less than normal and GRT to be significantly less than normal. And what we're finding is we didn't go as low as we thought, but we're also not going to come out of it as quickly as we thought. And it's not a matter of, we've got a whole bunch of experts in Joey's back office cranking out scenarios and numbers. It's truly just based upon history of what we have seen when we've had an economic downturn. We do see a reduction in both GRT. The last time we had it, we dropped by our revenues by about 20 to 25% in GRT, and we dropped off in property tax, I want to say a few million, but in value, we dropped down 5%, I think, overall. So, you know, they're estimates that Joey, Vaughn, and we went through some different scenarios, how we might think it would play out, and stuck with this one for the budget, for a plan. And we're every month taking a look at, is it happening the way we thought it would? And if not, where do we need to adjust?
Thank you. Thank you.
Just, Mr. Chair, I feel really good. Catherine, you did an excellent job. And I asked you those challenging questions because you've been there, done that. And just for the general public to realize, you know what? She has experience and she has a good team, and she's making some assumptions, which are great and very conservative. As you know, you are, Catherine. As Chuck, you're very conservative. That this is why we are who we are, because you're very conservative, and I appreciate that. But I just asked you those challenging questions because sometimes people from Madrid, Cerrillos, they ask me, you know, we have all these businesses in Cerrillos, Madrid, and what do we get from tax and rev? Well, I said, you know what? The GRT goes to tax and rev, then we get a check for it. So we're trying to figure that out. But I just want to ask you those questions because you guys do an excellent job of your team. Thank you for what you do, Joey, because you know you came here and you said, what am I jumping into? But you jumped into a good swimming pool, and we're teaching you how to swim. And Catherine's a good instructor, and I just want to ask that and put it on the public. Thank you, guys.
And Commissioner Garcia, you know, one of the things, so the tax out in the county is like 7.25% GRT. So if you're a business in Cerrillos or Madrid, that's what you're charging. But 5 1/8 of that, so 5.125 of that 7.25 goes to goes to the state. And then out of that share that the county gets, it's also divided up very specifically by law and by ordinance as to what bucket it can go into. So some of it goes into fire, some of it goes into capital expenditures to include our roads, our facilities, open space, and then some of it goes to our general operations, like the jail, and all the administrative offices, and public works and sheriffs. So sheriffs is predominantly funded with our general tax dollar of property tax and gross receipts tax.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Joey. Excellent job.
Thank you, Commissioner
Like your
Garcia.
entire team.
Okay, so I believe we went to all of the commissioners, but are there any additional questions, commissioners? If not, I'd like to move on to our next item. So this is item number 7, and these are matters from county commissioners and other elected officials. 7A is commissioners' issues and comments, including but not limited to constituents' concerns, recognitions, and requests for updates or future presentations. Commissioner Hansen, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want everyone to notice this beautiful purple banner in the background. It is the centennial celebration of the women's suffrage, 1920 to 2020, and tomorrow marks the day, August 26th, of 100 years that women have had the right to vote. I want to thank the Commission for passing the proclamation on women's suffrage, and on Sunday I had the honor to read our proclamation before the car parade that followed the route that the original suffragettes took in downtown Santa Fe. Daniel was so kind to come and videotape me, and we posted it on the county Facebook page and on my commissioner page. And it was also really amazing that 72 cars were in the parade, and that is the number of years that it took women to gain the vote. So it was very auspicious and very wonderful event in the afternoon on Sunday. And then tomorrow from 4 to 6, there will be a Zoom meeting hosted in Albuquerque that people can log into. It's on my Facebook page, it's on my commission page, and I sent it out with the newsletter that I have just pushed out last week that Sarah and I worked on, my constituent liaison. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Sarah, also for coming to the centennial celebration car parade on Sunday. So that was a very fun and exciting event. And then this morning I was interviewed by Marcela Diaz about the work that we are doing in Santa Fe County on COVID-19 and on our resolution that's going to be coming up on civil rights and the need for social and racial justice. So that will air at 6 p.m. this evening, and it's on KSFR. And I think that besides being incredibly busy, during this time of staying at home, I think that all of the commissioners find that we are way more busy than we normally think we're going to be staying at home. So I am grateful to everybody's work, and thank you very, very much for letting me share those events.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quick, as into the Commissioner Hanson stated, as we all know, as being a policymaker, it's challenging out there, especially during these times. It's, you know, it's interesting. And just like to thank Sean from Edgewood for keeping and being involved. And, you know, he calls me every other day, and I try. I'm working with the County Manager Miller as into how we can open that. And thanks for the community being involved. And one of the main things that I've always talked about is communication. You know, it's all about communication, right? Communication. And how can you do that in a relationship, or how do you do that with policymakers or federal government? And one of the things that I didn't bring up this is for the fire chief. You know, communication as into we're getting social media out as to what's happening, with all due respect, Commissioner, in your district, as into the Rio Medio fire, or in the Caja del Rio fire, as into, remember, my grandma does not have internet. My grandma does not have cell phone service. So how do we reach out to those people? I don't know. Yes, go knock on the door, but just, fire chief, if you can keep that in mind as into, let's not put it on social media, because I don't do social media. However, let's just keep in mind the individuals that don't do social media. How do we go knock on the door and say, ma'am, or sir? So just keep that in mind. But nonetheless, throughout the nation and what's happening is communication, right? Communication. And I'll call him President Trump, because he is our president. He's our commander in chief. And whether some people like it or some people don't, he's our commander in chief. And as you said, 100 years, a long time ago, that women were able to vote. You know, he actually pardoned Susan B. Anthony the other day, and they pulled out a coin and said, "Wow, Susan B. Anthony, who is that?" You can ask a young individual, "Who's Susan B. Anthony?" I don't know. But you're right, Commissioner Hanson, as into 100 years ago, women were allowed to vote, and great thing, and it makes sense. So I just want to let you know that once again, my constituents from Edgewood, Sean, thank you for being involved. Catherine, Budget, our public safety officers, first responders, everybody, our policymakers. It's a challenging times these days to be a policymaker, and we're doing a great job, and I think we do an excellent job. Staff all the way down, thank you. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Hamilton?
No, I don't have anything new. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Moreno?
Nothing now.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to go on to item number 7B, other elected officials' issues and comments, including but not limited to constituent concerns and recognitions and requests for updates for future presentations. Madam Clerk, are you still with us?
I'm still here. Yes. What I'd like to share with the public and with the board today is that we did complete the election day and the process for the town of Edgewood's election. Sorry to report, but it's a fact that it was a very contentious election. We did complete the whole process up to yesterday, and now we're in canvassing mode. So that will be completed soon, and then we'll have a board canvassing meeting with all of you for you to approve that canvass. In addition to that, I want to share with you some exciting news. After the 2020 primary election, it was so painful, so much work, so overwhelming, that we, days later, a week later, met with one of our election vendors, and we presented to them what we wanted them to do. And what they did is they programmed a system for us to speed up some of the process, most of the process of absentee ballots. So they listened to everything we wanted to see in this system, a scanning system, and we were able to test it out for the town of Edgewood election. So the absentee board that was gathered at the warehouse, it was reported to me, and I did witness it yesterday. They have smiles on their faces in processing these absentee ballots. So we're looking forward to implementing this for the 2020 election. Now, Santa Fe County is the only one that's using this new system that was programmed for us, and hopefully other county clerks can use this too. So there's a couple of things we'd like them to add to this system, and we'll meet with them as soon as we can, hopefully immediately after the canvassing of the town of Edgewood's election, to perfect it further in preparation for the 2020 general election. So that's exciting news for us, and staff is happy. We have thousands of applications. We've had a third party issued, a couple of third parties, especially one who's been sending out automatically absentee ballot applications. It's been reported to me that some are receiving 2, 3, and 5. That's overdoing it, and it's created an administrative nightmare for us. I understand what they are trying to do, but we already have this in the process of what we do, what our mandates are statutorily. So it has created some problems for us, but we just continue to do what we're doing. So all along, as we plan for the 2020 general election, we've had to deal and troubleshoot with many issues, especially with the Edgewood election, and then also the preliminary the preliminary parts of the 2020 general election. I do have concerns about the absentee board. I don't want to stuff them again at the warehouse. So today, the city of Santa Fe is reaching out to me. They want to work with me regarding the county clerk's office using Nextdoor to process some of these ballots, and there will be more room for us and the absentee board. In addition to that, Councillor Romero Worth has been in communication with me. Because of the financial problems we're all having, I have expressed that I don't think that a government function should be charged again with another government function. So I would like the fee waived for any rental of the facility, but I could understand the cost involved for them to have maintenance staff there to clean up after each day and to also follow COVID protocols where we will be next door, that is a cost that would be burdensome to the city of Santa Fe. So I am seeking resources from the state for reimbursement for that process. So we may have to initially reimburse the city of Santa Fe. And then I was told today by the Secretary of State that is a refundable, reimbursable cost for us because of COVID. And but I do want to see that the fee for the location is not charged. I don't believe the taxpayer should pay twice. So this is exciting news for me today. In addition to that, I understand that the governor wants to help us out, and they're recruiting state employees to help us in our office to process some of the overload of absentee ballots and absentee applications and absentee ballots. So that was wonderful. That was another piece of three pieces of good news, that they are recruiting at the state level for employees that are being paid and they don't have enough work. So they were looking at paying for those employees to work with us. So this is very exciting for us, and it helps us. It alleviates a lot of the stress. So thank you. Do you have any questions of me?
I don't, Madam Clerk, but thank you for that update. Are there any
Mr.
other
Chair?
questions from the board? Commissioner Hanson?
Thank you, Clerk Salazar. I completely appreciate hearing all that good news. A few constituents have asked me about having drop-off boxes out on the Grant side street of the county building, or having drop boxes just more conveniently located. I explained to them what a great job we did with the underground parking lot, or not underground, but lower level parking lot in voting during the primary. And I hope that it won't be too cold and we'll be able to do that again. But I'm just wondering about the possibility of a drop-off box of some kind on Grant side, if that's something you can think about.
Well, Commissioner Hanson, well, that in addition is some good news, because a month ago, the Secretary of State had informed me that we were going to receive 4 smart drop-off boxes. But there are issues at the state level that they cannot provide those to us, to the Santa Fe County Clerk's Office. But they said, because of their budgeting and their restrictions and on and on. But what they did tell me is that if I did order some, that they would reimburse us. So they cannot purchase them for the county clerks directly and then drop them off. What they're going to do is I ordered 2 for this building only, 1 for downstairs and 1 for upstairs. And then the Secretary of State's office will reimburse us for those 2. Those boxes are run at over $2,000 each. I don't know how smart these will be as far as the ones that were promised to us before, because we were promised 4 smart drop-off boxes that we were going to place at this facility downtown where we're located, and then the others at another location in the county. I also had to pay attention to where would we put these, and I would prefer on county property, because I think we would have much more control if it was county property. So the good news, we will be receiving 2, 1 for downstairs, 1 for upstairs, and we're in communication with the Secretary of State. I've copied Joey and I've copied Yvonne on these emails of what we're doing. So that's what I can report to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Salazar. I appreciate any work that you can do to help our constituents make it easier for them to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Is that all you had?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Okay, so Commissioner Garcia, did you have any announcements? Oh, I think I already asked you. Sorry about that. And okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any other elected officials online that would like to address the board? I think I saw our county sheriff possibly earlier. I don't know if he's still here. Okay, once again, I'll ask, is there any other elected officials that would like to make announcements to their constituents? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close item number 7B and move on to item number 7A. And this is a resolution on civil rights and recognizing the need for racial and social justice. Commissioner Moreno and Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present this this issue. Yes, yeah. I proposed that Commissioner Hanson and I work together on a proclamation, and it was founded in the events in the way George Floyd died, and this is the subject of this issue. The racial injustice in our country is troubling. I'm grandfather for 2 biracial teenage grandsons, and I'm very proud of them and what they are becoming. I'm proud of their activism and participation in Black Lives Matter. But I worry about them and whatever I can do to assure that they do not face racial profiling or encountering hate and as they take their place in the world. we can all be agents for the better. This resolution is one step that we can take to speak up against injustice. As an immigrant myself, I want to thank Somos Pueblo Unidos for their support, and she's probably going to be speaking in a little bit later. And I want to thank Commissioner Hanson, who put a lot of effort into this project, and I'm grateful for the support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno, and we appreciate all of the words that you shared with us, and also, recognizing Somos un Pueblo Unido. They've been instrumental in helping with the census as well, and it's just a great, enthusiastic and energetic group of people. So very, very happy for this resolution today, sir, and thank you for everything. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Moreno, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So, this resolution acknowledged the unique racial and ethnic cultural history and diverse population within our county. And it expresses, I hope, the desire of our board to better serve and address the disparities affecting our minority populations and to begin to deconstruct and address the racism that hinders our county and and to help our constituencies to thrive. This resolution stands in solidarity with Black Lives Matter movement, condemns violence and racial activity, racist activities, and supports constituents' rights to protest peacefully. We commit to maintaining cooperative relationship with sovereign tribal governments within our county, invest in programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within our constituency, recommend that the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office review as necessary, revise its law enforcement policies and procedures to address the use of force, de-escalation, ban the use of neck and chokehold maneuvers, except in cases where deadly force is necessary, body camera operations, officer misconduct, and racial profiling, as well as instituting cultural and behavioral health training and other measures. I want to mention that not only did myself, Commissioner Moreno, our constituent liaison, Sarah Smith, and Olivia Romo worked very hard on this resolution. Also, we constantly were in touch with Sheriff Mendoza, because what I feel very strongly about is that I wanted this resolution, and we wanted this resolution to succeed. And we wanted to make sure that the sheriff had support and felt like that he had buy-in to this resolution also, that we weren't just writing a resolution out here in the other side of town and not engaging directly with our sheriff, because he is the one on the front line in a lot of these cases. And he stated that we are facing some more serious problems. We are not facing the more serious problems that others across the country are facing. And I think at the sheriff's office do a better job. We have a great reputation for being respectful and compassionate while policing Santa Fe County. And they are. We have done a lot of things during this COVID-19 issue to reduce disparity, and reduce the population of our jail so that we make sure that we don't have exposure to the COVID-19 in our detention facility. And I also I want to know if I would like to read parts of the resolution. It is quite a long resolution that Commissioner Moreno and I have worked on, but I would like to read parts of it, and especially the part of there now be it resolved into the record. And then also I would like to make sure that Sheriff Mendoza has a chance to speak, because without his support, I don't feel that we could bring this resolution forward, because we want to be a team, and we are a team here at Santa Fe County. And that is really important to me, that we're all respectful of one another. So the resolution begins, whereas the recent incidents of violence against Black Americans highlights the underlying colonial ideas and institutional racism that exists in our society. And whereas recent events in our country, including the indictment of law enforcement officers and the death of several people of color, national protests against racism and excessive force by police, and the COVID pandemic have enabled the empowerment and has empowered us to examine and implement social justice reforms in our educational system, courts, law enforcement agencies, and our medical, economic, and social systems. Whereas these events have also enabled and empowered us to create community engagement practices that bring elected and appointed officials and constituents to the table, ensuring that their voice and leadership of people of color are at the forefront of the reforms we seek to make. Whereas the state of New Mexico and Santa Fe County have a unique racial and ethnic makeup, cultural history, and diverse population. Whereas Santa Fe County and the city of Santa Fe are located in the traditional land of many indigenous American people and the sovereign nations of the Pueblo of Cochiti, Nambe, Powake, San Ildefonso, Santa Clara, Santo Domingo, and Chisuki. And whereas Santa Fe encompasses Spanish land grant, 55 acequias, and includes numerous cultural heritage sites. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners, as political and social leaders, recognize that institutions nationally have historically and systematically oppressed Indigenous, Black, minority, and migrant communities. And whereas the board acknowledges that our Indigenous, Black, minority, female, LGBTQ populations have historically been denied their constitutional and voting rights and have been limited in their ability to participate in the social community and dialogue that have impacted their community. Whereas we, the board, recognize the factors such as poverty, sexism, and behavioral health contribute to the victimization and marginalization of people of color in the state of New Mexico, and whereas the board adopted Resolution 20-50, which recognizes the county's efforts, specifically those of the Community Service Department and the Health Policy and Planning Commission, to reduce disparities in healthcare and public safety, and acknowledge the overarching factor affects all aspects of health in the county, including income, immigration status, and race and ethnicity. And whereas social, racial, environmental, and climate injustice resides in our national institutions of education, housing, finance, and politics, and the public at large also often unknowingly embodies racism that prevents equality for all. We as the board are aware of the magnitude of violence in our country and seek to successfully mitigate racial incident, vandalism against our community members, and sexual violence against women. We as a board recognize that our community and our nation's future require that we come together as a county, city, and state to study our institutions, affirm determination, and eliminate racism and the violence they produce in all locations in the county and the state of New Mexico, and stand poised and ready to address violence based upon the color of our skin, our heritage, our ethnic race, and our gender identity or sexual orientation. And whereas the board acknowledges that the Santa Fe County Sheriff Office, currently led by Sheriff Adam Mendoza, has publicly acknowledged that it supports equal justice and equal treatment for all, both locally and nationally. And whereas the board commends the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office for its acknowledgement of these national concerns and commitment to reviewing as necessary, revising its law enforcement policies and procedures to address the use of force, ban of neck hold and chokehold maneuvers except in cases of deadly force is necessary, body camera operations, officer misconduct, and racial profiling, as well as institutional, cultural, and behavioral health training and other measures to support improvement within our law enforcement activity. Whereas the board encourages the federal government to institute a number of changes to current national law enforcement policies, procedures, and oversight measures, including but not limited to limit the sale of military weapons of war to the general public in anticipation of reducing the need for local law enforcement departments within the municipalities and counties. Reactivate the U.S. Department of Justice subpoena power to conduct pattern and practice investigations of potential misconduct and help states conduct independent investigation, ban racial profiling and change behavioral patterns, boost requirements for sheriff, deputies, police, body cameras, create a national police misconduct registry, a database to prevent officers from transferring from one department to another with past misconduct undetected, and institute a federal anti-lynching bill. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the board hereby: 1, condemns violence and racist activities in our community, stands in support of Black Lives Matter movement, denounces gender violence and racism in all forms, and recognizes that racial hate groups be identified as terrorists, support peaceful protest, legislative action, and regional community forums to bring voice to our constituents and the need for institutional change, support, respect, and is committed to maintaining cooperative relationships with the sovereign tribal governments within Santa Fe County, which include the Pueblo of Cochitinambe, Poake, San Ildefonso, Santa Clara, Santo Domingo, and Tesuque. Supports programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within our constituency. Commends the Santa Fe County Sheriff for reviewing and as necessary, reviewing its law enforcement policies and procedures to address the use of force, ban of chokehold, ban of use of neck and chokehold maneuvers except in cases where deadly force is necessary, body camera operations, officer misconduct, racial profiling, as well as instituting cultural and behavioral health training and other measures to support improvement within our law enforcement department and support its efforts in these regards. Urge the establishment and application of a comprehensive and coordinated restorative justice approach in criminal justice system for all ages. Pledges to work with stakeholders, local stakeholders, to explore and expand pre-arrest and pre-adjudication diversion programs and alternative to incarceration. Recommends that the Community Service Department and the Mobile Health Crisis Team provide ongoing training, utilize current budget funds for Santa Fe County as Sheriff's Deputy on crisis situations involving behavioral health. Recommends all Santa Fe County Sheriff's Deputies be provided yearly cultural competency training, encourage participation in regional community dialogue with our county, cities, tribes, and towns. Adopt this resolution as a path towards a more equitable community with determination and pride, and in order to emphasize the importance of this matter and encourage a collaborative, coordinated regional, statewide, and national effort, direct the county manager to forward this resolution to New Mexico senators and representatives in Congress, New Mexico governor, Pueblo governors in the Santa Fe County, state senators and representatives in the New Mexico legislator representing Santa Fe County, other elected officials representing political subdivisions wholly or partially within the boundaries of Santa Fe County, including the cities of Santa Fe and Espanola, the town of Edgewood, and New Mexico County Executive Board. So that is a pretty comprehensive resolution that we have chose to bring forward. I think that we're all struggling with what is happening in this country and continually seeing Black men and being killed and murdered and shot. And we are so fortunate to live in a place where we have a good sheriff and a good department that is concerned about the welfare of our people. And I can't stress that enough of how grateful I am to the sheriff and his sincere concern for our well-being, because I do believe that that is in his heart. And I would like to, at this point, if Sheriff Mendoza would like to say a few words, I would like to open it up to him. And thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Moreno. I would just like to say that I really appreciate the hard work and the thoughtfulness that was put into the resolution. This is an opportunity to create some reform and engage in community, engage the community to make Santa Fe County a better place. You know, they say that Santa Fe is a city different, and I think at some point by default, Santa Fe County is the county different also. And I think as law enforcement, we understand the cultural differences, the melting pot of cultures and races and religions that encompass Santa Fe County and the city of Santa Fe. And we've lived in that type of environment for a very long time. And I would like to commend the commission for supporting this resolution, and Commissioner Moreno and Commissioner Hanson for bringing this forward. I appreciate being involved in the resolution and my recommendations and some of my input taken apart prior to the resolution being brought forward. We will consider the recommendations that are being made by the resolution and by the board. We will attempt to address policies and procedures, especially those that are related to use of force, de-escalation, profiling, and cultural sensitivity. What we are doing now as a department is I stand by the track record of the deputies and the men and the women that are out there putting their lives on the line and serving our community every day, of how we treat the community with respect and compassion. And we also do our job to ensure that the public is safe. And we will continue to do that. We are meeting all necessary training requirements when it comes to use of force and domestic violence, and those training requirements that are set forth by state statute. We are complying currently with Senate Bill 8, which deals with body-worn cameras. We actually are in the final stages of finalizing a new policy for body-worn cameras, which is going to be very comprehensive and will be in compliance with Senate Bill 8. So those are some of the things that we are doing currently. We'll continue to respond appropriately and respectfully and to the community. And one of the main important things is we will continue to cultivate a culture of respect and sensitivity. within Santa Fe County. We want policing and public safety to benefit the community and community members of Santa Fe County. We support equal justice for all within Santa Fe County, within the city of Santa Fe, nationally, and we support some of the recommendations, and we will look at some of the policies and procedures as recommended by the resolution. And I want to say this, that it's our job as law enforcement to provide public safety, and we will look at policies and procedures that support that. And at the same time, we want to support policies and procedures that keep our deputies safe and that allow our deputies to go home safe to their families every night. They do a wonderful job out there. We can always improve. We can always do better. And I appreciate opening up the dialogue so we can continue to improve and continue to move forward as a law enforcement agency and Santa Fe County. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Mendoza. Commissioner Hanson, did you have somebody else you needed to call on?
I'm hoping that Marcel Diaz might be on the line, but I know that she had a phone call and possibly until 4:30. I don't know if she has joined us, but she was another person that both Commissioner Moreno and I have worked with on this resolution, and she has been very supportive and helpful. And I know that the sheriff and she also have a good relationship and have worked together. Somos is a very important part of our community, and they help in so many different ways. I don't know if there's other people who wanted to speak to this resolution or not, but I'm also just grateful that we could bring this resolution forward and continue the dialogue on the need for racial and social justice throughout our community. I know that I'm very white. I am a Dane. I am from Denmark, but I saw my father experience a tremendous amount of prejudice. And as growing up as a child, he was from Denmark and a Scandinavian. And in those days, the Irish and the Scandinavians and they were considered like lower class. We weren't blue blood from England. And, he worked as a Teamster most of his life, but even where he worked, they referred to him as Swede instead of as a Dane. There was different things like that. And I mean, he, on purpose, him and my mother did not teach me Danish, which is, a family language, because they were concerned about the prejudice that he had suffered in this life. I mean, he came to this country as an indentured servant and worked to pay his passage on a sheep ranch in Arizona. So I understand in many ways what many people have gone through and how prejudice works if you're not from the right side of the tracks or if you don't have the blue blood. And so I think that it's really important that we all recognize each individual person's contribution, and that with education and with determination and strong determination, we can fulfill our potential. I became involved in the civil rights movement in the 1964 and 65. I was a young person in high school, and that was the time when President Johnson was bringing forward all of the civil rights rules with Martin Luther King. I worked with Julian Bond, who was one of the leaders of civil rights. And So I have a long history of really caring about these issues, and that I consider them very important for all humans to have, to be treated with respect and dignity. And that is why I am so grateful to have been able to work with everybody at Santa Fe County on this resolution. And I want to ask Commissioner Moreno to please make the motion to approve this resolution.
I so move.
And I so second.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. So we have a motion and a second. And do we have anything else under discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go to.
No, Commissioner Hamilton would like to. Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Hamilton.
Yeah. Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you. I think it's very important and very appreciated that Commissioner Moreno and Commissioner Hanson brought this forward. I think it's a wonderful statement that Sheriff Mendoza worked with him so closely on this. There's just no question that the gratitude we have for that we in fact do live in a wonderful community that has far less of the level of problem than is seen nationally. It also puts more responsibility in some ways for us to stand up and speak out because there's nothing like good people where things are a little bit different, staying silent to perpetuate problems. If nationally this is not a watershed moment on our ability to change at least some things to rectify the problems of prejudice and oppression, what will it take nationally if we let it die now? What will it take to ever reinstigate this level of awareness and motion so that people can get justice? We have to, as people in society, make things better. And while we often feel like things like resolutions, just standing up and making statements, doesn't have very much impact. Words and intentions do have impact, at least to the extent that they lead to actions. And I know that's the intent here. And it's impossible to find additional words beyond saying just how important it is because people who, while many people have certainly experienced things in our lives that give us an understanding of what fear and living in danger and living with economic suppression, living with all the impacts of not being considered equal, not being treated equal, or simply being oppressed by power, which is sort of the common mode. There's just no way we should want to continue to live with this and not do something about it. So I think it's wonderful that this is being brought forward and that Santa Fe County is standing up and saying something. And I hope it does have some meaning because if not now, when? So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Garcia, are you on the line? Would you like to make a comment, sir?
Yes, sir. Really quick. Appreciate the resolution coming forward. Totally in support of it. 100%, 99.9% in support of it. Some of the things I have a question for the Attorney Schaefer as into the last time we passed a resolution, we were subject to do different things. So Greg, can you tell us, are we actually subject to do it? Is the Sheriff's Department going to have to do a lot more different things now because we're passing this resolution or not? That's one of the questions I have. And then the other question I have is into, I understand about the Black Lives Matter and the black man as into the resolution, but can we just change it for all lives matter? And so I'm just interested as into all lives matter. And so that's what I would like to know. Why are we not into all lives matter? Because they all do. And so those are just really quick, Mr. Chair, as into, because that's probably the longest now there and forth that I've ever read or have ever seen it in a resolution county commission. However, so those are kind of the three questions I have. I'm good at the resolution, but I want to say all lives matter. So that's where I'm at with it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, it's Greg Schaefer speaking. So relative to the question about any additional burden that this resolution would place on the sheriff's office, my understanding as reflected in the resolution is that the county sheriff had already independently concluded that a review of law enforcement policies and procedures was appropriate. And so that was action that the sheriff independently decided to undertake. And so the resolution does not impose a burden on the sheriff. Rather, it commends the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office for reviewing and, as necessary, revising its law enforcement policies and procedures. So I hope that answers your question, Commissioner Garcia.
Yes, it totally does, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Greg. And, you know, because to be upfront, in my district, in the last month, I've had 3 kids that have lived in my district that were involved in shootings. And they weren't African American. However, they're young kids. J.B. White, so a gentleman down the street from where I stay, and where it's just, I just want to make sure that all lives matter. And so I just want to go on to put the sheriff, excellent job. The commissioner said sheriff does an excellent job in the entire state. Yes, yes. And so I just want to make sure that all lives matter. You know, every Hispanic kid, Mexican kid, African American kid, white kid, all lives matter. So I would just like the resolution to say, you know, all lives matter. And so, as we all know, and we all support that. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to bring a resolution in the next 30 days saying do something for this and that. So that's where I'm at with that, Mr. Chair. But just wanted to voice my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hanson, I had Commissioner Hamilton raise their hand. If we could have these last brief comments, please, Commissioner Hamilton.
Commissioner Hanson, I don't want to take power from a response you might have. There is a really important reason to include Black Lives Matter. Of course, all lives matter. The whole point of trying to work for social justice and racial equality is to achieve that goal. The importance of including Black Lives Matter, that statement, is because up until now, I mean, constantly, even after the Civil Rights Amendment, we have, not to go into any depth of history, but we started out in this country having greater chance for freedom and equality than was previously available any place. But we've had to make an awful lot of changes because we started out accepting and embracing slavery. So, you know, with liberty and justice for all, as long as you were white and owned land and a man, right? And over time, we have been able to improve that so that it wasn't just white male landowners who got to determine what goes on in the country. And even after all of those improvements and all of the amendments, which probably anybody who paid any attention in high school could rattle off, we still come today. And, you know, I can walk down the street and without a whole lot of fear. But if I were Black, anybody who's Black knows that they're more likely to get shot. Not necessarily here in Santa Fe County, that's not the point. Like, just watch the news every night. What we have to do, it's like when people argue why we should need affirmative action. Because opportunities are equal as long as you're white or a white guy. It's just has not been equal. And that's the affirmative nature of what we are trying to say. It's not dissing anybody or devaluing anybody else's life. It's sort of a recognition that we have been trying. This is a country of equal opportunity. It's just less equal for Black people. That's the way it is. I just cannot imagine that even in Texas, if I had been a paramedic in Texas sitting in my apartment and a bunch of cops had broken into my apartment by mistake, that I would probably have gotten shot like Breonna Taylor did. Just saying. And so this is not a generalized statement that all lives are important. It's a specific statement that we have not and still do not treat Blacks with the equality that everybody else. And it is generally people of color. But I think the remaining details in the resolution embrace that. So that's my intended respectful response to why we want Black Lives Matter in there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. So, Commissioner Garcia, we have struggled with this resolution and worked incredibly hard on it. And at one point we had a list of as many different nationalities as possible. And, we worked with County Attorney Schaefer, and we settled on the state of New Mexico and Santa Fe County have a unique racial and ethnic makeup, cultural history, and diverse population. And I think that encompasses all lives, because that states what a diverse place that New Mexico is. And this resolution is kind of the culmination of a series of civil rights resolutions that Commissioner Moreno and I brought forward. We brought forward the resolution recognizing the county's effort to reduce disparity in healthcare and public safety. I brought forward the pollinator resolution, which to me is a civil rights issue also for all pollinator species. The women's suffrage proclamation was also another civil rights resolution. And these were a series of purposeful resolutions and proclamations bringing forward and recognizing the disparities that we are all facing together. And it is all of us. This resolution encompasses every single person, and it says that in the word throughout the resolution. And so I believe that it should be as it stands, as a strong testament to what this Santa Fe County stands for, and how Sheriff Mendoza has worked with us and supported what we are doing in this resolution, and how we have all worked together. So I really appreciate your comments, and I understand your concern, but I believe this resolution does encompass all lives matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote and go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, of course. Obviously, I just want to put on the record, but yes, as I just talked, the sheriff does an excellent job. I don't need it, where somebody's gone to the legislature and seen 33 sheriffs throughout the counties work together. Sheriff Mendoza actually, he does a great job. And thank you, Commissioner, for bringing this forward. Totally great resolution. I'm for it. Totally, of course. I just wanted to put on the record. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Hanson?
Yes, honorably.
Commissioner Moreno,
Yes, yes.
and a yes from Commissioner Roybal. And I'd like to also just recognize our sheriff for being proactive and working with his constituents. So thank you, Commissioner Sheriff Mendoza. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next agenda item. And of course it is with bittersweetness, but it's 7D, and this is recognition of Commissioner Moreno's work on the commission, and he's made the decision to retire, but I just want to commend him for all his dedication and working hard for his constituents. So we're all going to miss you, and I'm honored to be here today, sir, and bid you farewell, but also hope for the very best in all your future endeavors, and I hope that you and your wife enjoy your retirement. And you know, it's just been an honor working with you, sir. I thought you were going to be here. You were going to be sending me off and along with the rest of the commission, but it looks like I'm going to be honored to be here today to share your retirement with you, sir. It's been an honor. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hansen.
So, Commissioner Moreno, I love you, and I am going to miss you so much. You have been one of the best partners. You brought forward and you let me join you with the Indigenous Peoples Day. We have brought many, many great resolutions and proclamations forward, and I am honored to have been able to work with you and be your partner and all the great things we have done. And, you know, a culmination is this resolution that we just passed. I mean, it is a testament to your dedication to your constituents and to all of us. And I am going to miss you so much. I am extraordinarily grateful to have had these 3 3/4 years to work with you and do the great work that we have been able to do. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Commissioner Moreno, did you have any comments that you want to? Well, I'm going to go. Is it okay to go out to all the commissioners and then I'll come to you last, sir? Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What can we say, Commissioner Moreno? We started together and it's been such a wonderful path. You are truly an incredible, unique, and fine person. And so you bring so much of your very special knowledge and attitude. Your unique perspective on things has been so enriching to the commission. And you bring that so many other places in life. You know, you've done that clearly for years and years in your other professional pursuits, and you bring a real richness to your community that we all value, and it gives us something to admire and try to emulate, right? I think that is something that you have endeavored to do, you know, for many, many years in all of your endeavors. So it's with tremendous respect and affection that I look at our years working and serving together, and wish you very, very good luck in your next endeavors.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Garcia?
Really quick, I'm just straight to the point. Commissioner, thank you for when I first met you, when you had that forum there in El Dorado at the old the community center there, and you did an excellent job. And anybody that steps up to the plate that is for a policymaker, you did good and you did awesome. And like Commissioner Hamilton, whatever your next endeavors are, good job. And for somebody to step up to the plate and do that, great job. I appreciate everything that you've done. The community of El Dorado, I can remember when actually you went to a meeting and people were upset because asphalt. Whether asphalt was good, whether it was bad, whether you can get sick or not, and you stood up for what you thought was right. And sometimes as a policymaker, sometimes we don't stand up for what we think is the right thing to do, and we take the other route. And at that meeting, I saw you, and you stood up and said, "No, this is what I think is right." Good job. And so in your next endeavors, awesome job for standing up to the plate. Great job, Commissioner. And Sam Montoya always said he's the next county manager and the ex-manager of Taos County and the Association of Counties. Every time you see somebody that's an elected official, whether it's a city councilor or a mayor or whatnot, you always refer to them as commissioner, counselor, because judge, your honor, and I will always tell you that because you know what? You ran for office and you deserve the title. And Commissioner, yes, we will miss you. And, you did an excellent job, because all of us policymakers do an excellent job. And people may not realize that. However, someday people say, I did a good job. And, whether they think I did or did not, I felt that I did a good job. And so, Commissioner, great job. And we will miss you. And if you ever need anything from Santa Fe County, you can call me or any county manager. And if you need a road paved, as long as it's a county road, we can put on the ICIP list. But Commissioner, you're in that title, and great job, Commissioner. And it just makes me kind of breaks my heart but you have to take care of your health, because sometimes whenever you don't sleep at night, like they asked Catherine Miller, how do you sleep at night? Or Joey, how do you sleep at night? I don't know. Nobody asked me that. But however, Commissioner, great job. And like I said, if you need anything from Santa Fe County, we will bend over backwards to help you out. Congratulations, Commissioner, and do what you need to do. We're here for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. I'm going to go to Manager Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Moreno, so I was trying to think how many commissioners I've worked for in this job. I think it's about 13 or 14, and every one of them is unique and has their own way of doing things as a policymaker and as a commissioner and as one of my bosses. And, I just want to say some of the things about you that have been that really stand out for me is that you're very thoughtful, you're very deliberative in any issue. You write stuff down, you think about it, you think about all different sides. You don't just come in with your opinion. You really do absorb all sides of an issue and deliberate on that. You're kind. You're incredibly pleasant to work with, peaceful to be around, and you're smart. And it's really, really a pleasure to be a manager and work for somebody as a commissioner like you that supports staff, believes in listening to those people who spend day in and day out working on an issue for the constituents and for the commissioners. And I just really want to thank you for that and express my appreciation, I think, not just for me as manager, but from the staff. Always would hear how much they appreciated that about you, that they really felt like you listened to their side of things and didn't just come in with a mindset that couldn't be persuaded to maybe see another side of something. So I really, really appreciate that about you and have thoroughly enjoyed working for you and wish you the best in your retirement. I have the good fortune of being at the office today, and Tessa Joe, tons of people, the commissioners and staff pitched in for a retirement gift for you. And I'd like to be able to do it like they did some of the Golden Globes or some of those things where they handed it from one screen to the other. But unfortunately, I don't have two of them to hand it to you virtually. But we got you a Nambe plate, and I believe this is the first one with our new logo on it, and it says, Ed Moreno, in appreciation for your years of service and dedication, Santa Fe County Commissioner, District 5, years of service 2017 to 2020. So thank you so much, Commissioner, and you will be getting this really as opposed to virtually. This is for you from everybody at the county for all that you've done as a commissioner for District 5. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Manager Miller. We do appreciate that. I also want to open up to anybody else that would like to make any comments to Commissioner Moreno. Tessa, can you, I don't know if we have the capability to raise our hands here, but if there's anybody else that would like to make comments to Commissioner Moreno, please.
Chair Roybal, this is the county clerk.
Yes, Clerk Salazar?
Yes, before we go on any further, I would like to, for the record, issue the resolution number for the resolution you passed previously. For the record, the resolution that was passed earlier is Resolution 2020-59. In addition to that, I'd like to state as an elected official and as Commissioner Moreno, a colleague, as an elected official, I want you to know that I consider you an honorable man, a gentleman, and very even-keeled. And I think you added a tremendous amount of value to the board. You tend to be quiet, but you're thoughtful, and your knowledge is expansive. I wish you the best in your endeavors, and you will be remembered. Thank you for your public service, and thank you for always being a gentleman. In addition to that, Chair Roybal, I would like to make a few statements before we go any further regarding Black Lives Matter. I think we all need to recognize that African Americans of slave descent is a totally different issue than any other minority person of color. It is an institutionalized system of racism and control that created a system of laws that made African Americans of ancestry of slavery property. Their children were the adults were bred, the children were sold. That is a tremendous difference. And it happened a long time ago, and it took a long time for them for African Americans who are descendants of slavery to come to where they're at this point. And so I think we need to understand there is a big difference. And because of the generational aspects of slavery and the laws that had this in a stronghold over a people as property, that there is also generational post-traumatic stress disorder, which affects the generations that have gone forward after this horrible event of our country, and that is slavery. So there is a big difference. Yes, in general terms, people of color, especially those whose ancestry has been on this land for a very long time, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, there has been forms of genocide, but there is a big difference when African Americans have been enslaved, brought to this country, and the laws protected those to continue to keep them as property. And we need to understand that there is generational post-traumatic stress disorder, and many of these ancestors and their children and grandchildren have never recovered. It's not an excuse, it's a reality. Thank you so much.
Well, what can I say?
I want to say something.
Mr. Chair, you're muted.
I'm good. Okay.
So I'm going to go to Tessa Joe, but Commissioner Moreno, let me bring a few more people to talk on your behalf, sir. And if we could stay focused just on Commissioner Moreno's retirement, that would be great. Tessa Jo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Moreno, I just wanted to say thank you. It has been amazing working with you these last 3.5 years. You are truly a class act, always 100% respectful. And, I think Catherine summed it up perfectly when she says you're just a very peaceful person and somebody that we all hope to emulate. So I wish you good luck on your retirement, and don't forget about us because, we're all part of a family here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tessa Jo. I'm going to go to Mr. Hiron, and then I'll go back to Ms. Romo.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Moreno, it's been a pleasure working with you with Public Works staff. We hold you in high regard. You're always interested in community issues. You're willing to listen and engage in those issues and represent your community. And you have a calm leadership, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hiron. Okay, so I'm going to go to Ms. Romo, and then I'm going to go to Julia Valdez next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to extend my deepest love and gratitude to Commissioner Moreno. It has been a true pleasure, sir, working for you. We have accomplished so much together, and I have learned an incredible amount from your service and your modeling as a leader. It has been real fun. We've had good times, and I just really wish you the best in your retirement, and that you take good care and you enjoy and keep the pen wet. As a writer to a writer, I've learned a lot from you. And so thank you again. And all the staff, and I know I speak for all the liaisons in the county manager's office, that you've been a real pleasure to work with. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service for me. And it wasn't as long as I would have wanted, but you really helped me in many ways. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Moreno, it was such a delight working for you. We go back quite a ways before even the county commission, but we had some really good times. We had some very intense conversations, and especially when you were running, and I really made you do things that were out of your comfort level, but you did it, and it was so much fun learning about your history, your background, and just some of the internal jokes that we had. Like, don't be so pinche. So some of the things that we did. And just some of the adventures that we had, it was a delight. Plus, to see all of the things that you've done for District 5, for the county, and just for the community in general. I'm honored to have been part of it and to have experienced it firsthand, and I'm going to miss you terribly.
Thank you. You were a good liaison. You kept me on the straight and narrow.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
But
Okay,
it
and
was fun.
others?
I have a
Thank
bad
you.
internet connection. I'm going to get disconnected real quick from here in the Valhalla Village.
Commissioner Garcia? Did you have something else? I'm going to go to your successor, Mr. Hank Hughes. I believe had some words he'd like to share as well.
My internet connection is not good. Thank you for your service to the county and to the community of El Dorado. Not only as county commissioner, but in your prior service on the ECIA board, which was probably even harder than being a county commissioner. And I also want to thank you for letting me know well ahead of time so I could think about whether I wanted to, try and run and be your successor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hank. Yeah.
All right, Hank, you got huge shoes to fill. Do we have anybody else that would like to make comments? Tessa, maybe you can unmute just for a minute. Is there anybody else that would like to make comments to Commissioner Moreno on his retirement? Okay. Is there any other comments from board members? Commissioner Hanson, you had an additional comment?
Well, I just see that Marcela Diaz is on the line, and I would just like to let her know that we passed the resolution, and I wanted to thank her for her support and input. And if she wanted to say anything.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. If we could get through Commissioner Moreno's retirement, we can come back to Marcela after, but welcome, Marcela.
Okay,
We're
thank
glad
you.
you're on. Okay. How are you? Commissioner Moreno, I'm going to come back to you so that for closing comments and any farewell words. You're muted, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Mr. Chair and my fellow commissioners and all the elected officials and especially the hardworking staff members of the county. It was a delight, and it was a rare privilege to serve the people of Santa Fe County, and I won't ever forget it. I want to thank the voters of District 5 who elected me in the first place, and it has been a wonderful experience. Educational, enriching, beyond my dreams. I don't know what more I can say, but I especially want to thank Catherine. I remember that cold winter not day. It was in the dark, actually. It was I think it was Liz Liz. Liz was campaigning, and I was newly unemployed, and I met you, and you kind of gave me some kind of a pep talk or a little bit of what's it like, and that really helped, and I appreciate that. So I don't know what else I can say. I have had a very good life, and the next job what will be is going to be retiree.
Are you sure, Commissioner?
Yeah.
We might want to put you on some boards.
Well, what's it pay?
Oh, that's good. Coffee.
Just say no. Just say no.
Hey, we can't let you go that easy.
Yeah, I have a lot of things on my plate already. Thank you.
Totally understand, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve. with all of you.
Yes, sir. And it was our honor. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you all for the kind words and just remembering all the good times. Especially the comment that Julia made. I think we can all probably relate to that. So great job, Commissioner Moreno. We do appreciate you. I do want to go ahead and go back to and what an honor it was for you to bring this resolution forward, you and Commissioner Hansen, and for it to be your last meeting as a commissioner. And we do have Marcela Diaz, as Commissioner Hansen had alluded to earlier. And so I'd like to give her the opportunity to make any comments. We did pass the resolution earlier, and I'm sure your ears were burning because we were definitely recognizing Somos Un Pueblo Unido all night, and just realizing all the hard work and enthusiasm and energetic I guess just the overall feeling that you guys bring to every board that you sit on. I mean, you guys have been a tremendous help on the census. So, Marcela.
Thank you, Commissioner Roybal, Chairman Roymal, and I really appreciate that. And I just I'm sorry I had another meeting and couldn't get on fast enough, but I'm really glad to have been able to hear all the wonderful comments about my commissioner, Ed Moreno. And so I want to speak to that a little bit, but I just thank you for passing this resolution, and thank you to Commissioner Moreno and Commissioner Hansen for sort of leading the charge. It's so important. I do want to just, as always, recognize how important it is and to urge that all of our community leaders to continue to support the established and emerging Black leadership in Santa Fe and in New Mexico in order to help lead us in not just a conversation, but also an action plan to remedy just some of the horrific inequalities that we continue to face as communities of color, and the various forms of violence that we continue to face as communities of color. And so was happy to see that a lot of that really good media information in your statement, your public statement around Black Lives Matter, as well as all of the other racial justice issues that we need to really start working on. I want to just point out that some of the recommendations that we made to Commissioner Hansen and Commissioner Moreno came from another task force that I believe the county did participate in, and that's the Municipal Public Health. It's the Municipal Drug Strategy Task Force that the city convened and worked with the county on, I believe. And so we spent a lot of time really thinking through how we can take a community health approach to alcohol and other drugs in our community and other community safety issues. And so that's out there for folks if you guys want to check it out. Of course, my heart is with really thinking through restorative justice programs in our communities for all ages. Not just in the schools, but really through our law enforcement system. And of course, really thinking about alternative approaches to incarceration in our community that can have such deleterious effects on our community. And then, so thank you all for recognizing that and for passing this. And lastly, Commissioner Moreno, you've been great in your time, and you've always been accessible to our familias. And I just want to recognize that Commissioner Moreno is a Mexican immigrant, and that is very well known in the Somosista community. And so we're just so pleased that you were there representing all of our community needs and issues, including immigrants. So thank you for your hard work. And most of the people I know who retire are busier than when they were doing.
Oh, no.
So you might get a few emails from us, I'm just saying. Thank you, Commissioner Hansen, for recognizing me after the fact, and Commissioner Roybal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcela, and thank you for being here and sharing that information. You always have such a powerful message, so we do appreciate you. You have a good evening now. Okay, thank you all. We're gonna move on to our next item, and this is Public hearing, item number 8A, presentation and public hearing on Santa Fe County Infrastructure and Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP. This is the first of two public hearings. This is a non-action item, but we have from our Growth Management Department, Mr. Paul Olafson, and also Mr. Jacob Stock. Paul? You're muted, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. So as you just stated, this is the first of two public hearings for this issue. It's the Infrastructure and Capital Improvement Plan. This is submitted annually to the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration. It's due this year on September 18th. And this submittal will be the county's fiscal year 2022 through 2026 ICIP, and that will be eligible for funding consideration in the upcoming legislative session starting in January 2021. As we all noted, due to the pandemic, this is and as the earlier conversation regarding budgets, this is a very challenging time fiscally as well as community, et cetera. We're not sure how much or if any capital outlay will be out on the street this year, but we are required to put it together, and if we don't submit it, then we don't have a chance. So we've put together a list of potential projects. It's approximately 30 projects for the board to consider. This is part of our, and we've done it a different way this year. It's part of our long-range capital planning framework. The board passed Resolution 2019-103 that established a more formal capital planning process. Thus, we've used that new process in this year's ICIP review and evaluation process, and Jacob is going to speak to that a little bit more in just a moment. We did come to you in July with a schedule of outreach, and based on the inability to hold public meetings in person, we held two webinars on July 21st and 29th to solicit input from the public and requests for capital projects. Additionally, we reached out to some of our nonprofit partners we've worked with in the past and who have received capital outlay, and where the county has served as fiscal agent. We asked them to put together any lists or requests they might have now at this time so that we can consider it with the entire ICIP plan, and also talk about if the board is interested in serving as the fiscal agent. So lastly, this is part, as I was stating earlier, part of our broader long-range capital planning process, and I believe Manager Miller may speak to that after Jacob speaks. This is the first of two public hearings, so after our presentations, I'd ask you, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, to open it up for any public comment if there is any. And I'll turn it over to Jacob to talk a little bit about our process to date. And maybe Daniel Fresquez, if you could put the PDF up on the screen to show the projects that have been submitted for potential consideration.
Thanks, Paul and Daniel. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I want to start by thanking Commissioner Moreno for his years of public service, and I want to apologize that he has to listen to me run my mouth about ICIP one more time on his retirement day. So, I'm sorry for that. As Paul mentioned, I'm here to give some background on how we developed this year's infrastructure and capital improvement plan in the context of our larger capital improvement planning program. As Paul noted, the ICIP is a mechanism, or is the mechanism that we use in New Mexico to request capital outlay appropriations from the state. At Santa Fe County, we compile the ICIP list in accordance with our overarching capital planning policy, and as detailed in Resolution 2019-103. The ICIP is a relatively small portion of our overall capital improvement plan, however, which includes all proposed capital infrastructure projects with a defined scope and which are proposed for implementation during the next 5 years. It's important that we're selective with the projects that we include in the ICIP. Not all projects are a good fit for legislative appropriations, and the county has other more plentiful sources of capital funding for large infrastructure. A shorter ICIP list also allows us to focus our lobbying, planning, and project management efforts where they're needed to fully fund and implement essential projects. So to develop this year's recommended ICIP list, we started with the overall CIP. This is the same project list that we used to develop the capital budget and the 2020 bond list back in July. So all projects are reviewed by the Capital Planning Committee. They're given a scope of work and they're evaluated based on adherence to the county's strategic planning goals. The results of those evaluations are there in the basic need column and in the evaluation score column that you can see on the spreadsheet that Daniel put up. Most of the highest ranking county priorities were already funded through our bond and capital budget process in July. So the Capital Planning Committee looked at projects that were not yet fully funded and selected projects to include based on their evaluation score and with an eye to spreading project requests across the full geography of the county. We did not include senior services projects in the ICIP. This is because the state requires seniors to submit their own separate ICIP. So those will be submitted separately per state statute. We also reviewed new project requests from staff and residents through our ICIP outreach process, which Paul mentioned. These projects were reviewed and evaluated and included in this recommended list that you see. And finally, as Paul noted, and I'd like to repeat, we expect that capital outlay appropriations will be very limited to non-existent this year. We recommended relatively low-cost projects that we believed the legislature would consider funding in full if funds are available. Paul and myself are available to answer questions or elaborate more on this process, on the capital planning process more generally, or on specific projects. And I'd also like to remind everyone that this is a public hearing. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Are there any questions? And Mr. Olofsson, are there any questions for the commission? Commissioner Hansen?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, so, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Hansen.
was there somebody else who wanted to speak? So I see you put up the first list of 2022, but there's also the list that is numbered Santa Fe County CIP by district. So what item are we submitting to the state? Are we submitting this list that you have in front of us? Is that what we should be concentrating on?
Madam Chair, if I could, real quickly.
Manager Miller.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I asked Paul and Daniel to provide, you have to remember, and I go over this every year, that we have our CIP, which is our capital improvement plan. And that is a much more comprehensive list of capital projects. And then we're required by the state to do an ICIP. In some cases, for smaller counties, communities, they may be one and the same. But for us, because we have tens of millions of dollars of GO bonding capacity, we have capital outlay GRT, we have higher excise tax, we have impact fees, we have our funding for administrative facilities improvements to our buildings for ongoing maintenance projects, which may elevate to the level of a capital project. And we have the ability to do revenue bonds. We have multiple funding sources for capital improvement projects. So I asked Jacob and Paul to include our bigger CIP, of which this ICIP is our first subset. And this is what we submit to DFA that is used with, in conjunction with LFC, that they look at to say, oh, it needs to be on your ICIP in order for you to get legislative funding. We all know that's not true, because how many years have we gotten appropriations for projects that are not on our ICIP? But we try to achieve and are trying to put this process in place that says, hey, anybody out there that's going to go to the legislature and ask for money and ask Santa Fe County to be the fiscal agent, please get in the stream now. Get into our process now, so we know what it is you're going to ask for, what you're going to ask the county to do, and how we can work that into our overall capital planning process. Because it's going to take an allocation of our human resources and likely some of our financial resources as a result. So this is a sub-list of the bigger CIP, but I wanted them to include the whole CIP so that you saw all the projects that you already approved for funding in June and July. All the ones that are in our current budget or that we have already funded with multiple years of funding. So this list is the Santa Fe County CIP, the one that essentially you approved in the final budget. You approved many of these projects for capital outlay GRT. Some of our other funding sources, fire excise tax or fire fund, or some other county funding source, capital outlay GRT or some other source. And so Jacob has done a really good job of color coding it, so you can see what's in our FY 2021 budget, and you can see what is in the 2020 bond question, and you can see what we earmarked potentially for the 2022 bond questions or other sources in the future. And then you can see he put in Peach, the ICIP, which is the list you're looking at that we'll be asking you to approve to submit to the state. We don't want to give the state the entire CIP. We want to give to them 50 to 100 projects that we realistically believe they could possibly find, that we either have not identified a funding source yet, or that they could appropriate funds to assist us in meeting our financial goals for those projects. So I wanted to make sure you saw the whole CIP, and then you could look at the ICIP, which is all that we will put to the state in that ICIP. In addition, you have to pick the top 5 projects. This is another requirement by the state. Even though they do not fund it based on our top 5, they fund it based on a number of other factors that appeal to particular legislators that get funding or get the ability to appropriate funding. So that's the 2 ones that you have. Jacob put it in by all the projects that we've ranked, and by type and by district, and then the subset being the ICIP. Also, I just want to remind you, we will be back again probably in 2 months or somewhere shy of that for the aging, because we're required to put in a separate capital improvement plan to the state for our seniors program. And that's because seniors goes through a different process at the state. Aging goes through a different process to set out their top capital projects for the state that they put into a GEO bond question. So it's complicated, but this is a comprehensive list. And then ICIP is a subset of that, this list. The fire department's 5-year plan is a subset of this list. Seniors is a subset of this list. But I just want to remind you that because I wanted to make sure you could see, you weren't thinking, oh, we forgot about your other projects. We did not forget. They are likely scheduled for something in the future, or we've already funded them if you don't see them on the ICIP. And if you don't see them on either list between now and our next public hearing, please bring it up so we can address it and rank it and get it considered for the ICIP. I hope that answers your questions and more, Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Commissioner Hanson, did you have any additional questions? Commissioner Hanson? Okay.
I'm good for the moment, and I'll listen to other people's questions, and then you might have to come back.
Commissioner Garcia?
I believe the call may have disconnected with Commissioner Garcia.
Okay, Commissioner Moreno, did you have any additional comments?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilton? You're on mute, ma'am.
Thank you. I assume that we're going to go through a process of discussing assigning the top 5 priorities after the public hearing.
Mr. Chair.
And speaking to that, so rather than speak to particular projects now, I understand the process. I appreciated Manager Miller's whole explanation. I have nothing until we go into that portion of the process.
Okay, I would agree with that, Commissioner Hamilton, and thank you for those comments. I feel the same way right now, so I do appreciate the presentation that we did get from Mr. Olson and also from Jacob. So thank you for that presentation. I think that we do have another public hearing that's coming up in here shortly. So I think that we can get some questions answered from here to that point if necessary. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Because it is a public hearing right now, I think we do need to ask if there's any member from the public who has a comment or input at this point.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Also, Mr. Chair, if Jacob could put the ICIP back up, because that's the actual document that we're doing the or item we're doing the public hearing for, to see if anybody has any comments relative to the list of projects that we want to submit to the state as our ICIP.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller, and thank you for bringing that up. So I do want to go out to the public and see if there's anybody from the public that would like to address the board relative to the public hearing that we're having today on county infrastructure and capital improvement, the ICIP plan. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the commission? Tessa Jo, has anybody signed up or?
No, sir. I can unmute them if you'd like.
Yes, if you can unmute everybody, and then I'll go ahead and ask that question again. Okay, once again, I'd like to ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to address the commission relative to our ICIP list that we have just been discussing.
So I don't know if we want to send this out before it's executed.
Go ahead and close the public hearing. Okay, and is there any other questions relative to this item that we were talking about? If we have any other items from the commission, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chair, could I just make one comment?
Sure, absolutely.
Really appreciate it. The commissioners could do is take a good look at the ICIP, look at the CIP. If there's anything on the CIP that's scheduled in our next few years in the next 2022 to 2027 that is on the CIP that you do not see on the ICIP, and you're concerned that it's not on the ICIP because you believe that we should have that on the ICIP to request state funds, please let Paul or Jacob know so that we can make sure it gets included in the ICIP. Anything that we fully funded in the process that we did in June and July, we won't be putting on the ICIP. But if there's something that's underfunded or that you thought was going to be funded by request to the state, if you'd let us know so we can make sure that we fully evaluate it and consider whether it's appropriate to add to the ICIP based on capacity, staffing, getting a partial appropriation, et cetera. We'd really appreciate it so we can make sure that we have a comprehensive ICIP when we come back at the next BCC meeting for approval.
Okay, thank you for that extra information, Manager Miller. So with that, I'd like to move on to our next item, agenda item, and it's item number 9, and this is matters from our county attorney. But before then, I want to ask, do any of our commission or board members need any additional information from the monthly reports? I do want to thank staff for these monthly reports, or the reports that we do get from them. Is there any additional questions for these monthly reports from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Hansen?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for the monthly reports. And then I wanted to especially recognize Lucy Fomo for the aggregate program. Good job. Glad to hear you're working, that you were on the Richard Eves show. I did have a question about the Rio Mario open space with the fire, but I'm sure somebody can update me at that later. And and then Patricia said that the Pueblos were most underserved in the census, and so I wondered which Pueblos were underserved in the census and COVID and what was happening there.
When you're saying underserved, or what exactly are you referring to, Commissioner Hansen?
In the memo, I think it was the most severe that it said in responding to the census. And it just said the Pueblos. And so I just wondered, was that because of the COVID? Because of COVID-19 and them not being able to reach out to them. I was just responding to what I read in the report.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to read that part. It says U.S. Census has moved up the date for self-response, which was October 31st to September 30th. This is detrimental all around as everything now ends September 30th, including the non-response follow-up. We have prepared urgent messaging and are working with Somos Un Pueblo Unido, Chainbreaker Collective, St. Elizabeth Shelter, as well as all the organizations on the Complete Count Committee. We're focusing on phone banking, social media, and electronic messaging, together with a new and enlarged radio campaign with custom commercials from trusted messengers and weekly interviews. We are reaching out to all Pueblos, which are especially having a hard time with the COVID-19. I don't know that they're underserved. It's been more of an issue of COVID being an inhibitor on getting people into doing individual counts, but it's not that they're underserved. It's more of issues relative to access to Pueblos to make sure that they aren't exposed to COVID-19. So, and I know that the Pueblos have, Patricia and our staff have really been working with the Pueblos to do as much as we can to make sure they're counted. But it's not an underserved issue. It's a COVID-19 issue, making sure we don't put anybody at risk by door to door. Most of the Pueblos across the state are considered not self-response, but that you actually go door to door to do the count. So that's one of the limiting issues with access and concern of people contracting COVID.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller. I actually was going to say a lot of the same comments that you made, but also say that I did have talked to the governors individually, all of them in the Pueblos, all of in my district. So it would be Tesuque, San Ildefonso, Pojoaque, and Nambe. So I know also that Patricia has reached out to all the individual Pueblos also, and as a matter of fact, I just sent her a message earlier for another contact that she could work with for Pojoaque Pueblo. So I know that I think that we are trying to try every avenue, I guess, with all the different communities, including the Pueblos. But thank you for that, Manager Miller.
Thank you, Manager Miller and Mr. Chair. I just, it's unfortunate that the census has gotten moved up, and I know that it is even harder now with COVID-19 to do the kind of counts that we want to do, and it's just unfortunate. I don't know if the state of New Mexico joined a lawsuit to extend the deadline for the census or not. I haven't seen that. Does anyone know? Okay. Okay, thank you. That is all I had. Thank you for all the reports.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Are there any other questions in regards to the monthly reports? Okay, if not, I think we can probably release some staff so that they don't have to stay while we go into executive session. So with that being said, Attorney Schaefer, can you give us a summary of what we're going into executive session for?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So the purpose for executive session and the statutes authorizing it are as follows. Limited personnel matters as allowed by Section 1015(1)(h)(2) NMSA 1978. Threatened or pending litigation in which Santa Fe County is or may become a participant as allowed by Section 1015(1)(h)(7) NMSA 1978. And discussion of the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights as allowed by Section 1015(1)(h)(8) NMSA 1978. Including executive management, personnel matters, rights of way for county maintained roads within exterior boundaries of Pueblos, and potential acquisition of open space property. Given that there are no other items of business on the agenda, I would recommend, Mr. Chair, that the motion to go into executive session to discuss the items that I've enumerated include that the board will be adjourning this evening from executive session. So in other words, the open portion of the meeting would now be over, and the board would not reconvene in open session this evening after executive session is over. I'd stand for any questions. Thank you.
No questions from me, unless there's questions from the board, but yes, I would agree with that. So if we can have a motion that will fill those exact requirements, that would be great. So can I get a motion from my board? Commissioner Hamilton, you're on mute, I believe.
Apparently, yes. Sorry, I thought I was just using my microphone to unmute, but then I got myself generally muted.
So moved.
Yes, I'd like to move, that we go into executive session, noting that to discuss the items that Attorney Schaefer just listed, and to include for the record that we will be adjourning the meeting from executive session, and as there's no need to come back to take any actions in general meeting after this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. And I believe I heard a second from Commissioner Moreno. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton and a second from Commissioner Moreno. Can I have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair Roybal,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia, for the record, Chair, what would you like?
Okay, so we have 4 yeses. I believe Commissioner Garcia has been disconnected. Hopefully he joins us in executive session.
Okay, and then Commissioner Moreno.
Yes.
Thank you. 4. Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you, Madam
Commissioners,
Clerk.
you have received a separate invite for executive session just for security and confidentiality reasons. So you will need to sign off of this meeting and sign on to the separate executive session WebEx meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, check your emails because Tessa Joe sent it out during the BCC, and I think also it changed. So make sure you get the one that it changed to.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Manager Miller. We would have had everybody in different locations. Okay. So let's reconvene in about 5 minutes. Give everybody a little break. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.